Now you said something different. Now let's go.
Peace, family. This is Jabari Osaze and the Queen Anika Daniels Osaze, Dr. Queen Anika Daniels Osaze. And I just want to salute the BLACKICETV7 family and let you know that we just got out of an amazing event, the Sonetta TV Awards. And so you can't celebrate Sonetta here in the US without celebrating the equivalent of Sonetta in the UK, BLACKICETV7. So I'm pleased to speak to our brothers and sisters across the waters.
Resin got that sauce in it.
One of these it'll all be over. It'll all be over. And we won't have to cry.
Will you be taking the COVID-19 vaccine?
This is the most controversial issue that we have probably faced in our lifetime.
Student Minister Abdul Hakeem Mohammed.
Do you trust this vaccine?
One of these it'll all be over. It'll all be over. And we won't.
Greetings, family. This is Terry Riggs, Mr. Riggs in the house, and we're doing part 3 this today with the Nation of Islam and their special guest. And as we're talking about the same old topic about the COVID, but before we go into that, we always start half an hour before the time. But I'm going to introduce my co-host, Mr. Richie.
Wagwan people, then. It's very good to have everybody joining us on the original platform, BLACKICETV7. We're back after a 3-month banning, trying to muffle us. We're back with hard-hitting issues, This is part 3 of this conversation with Nation Islam, talking about this issue, you know, vaccine, what we should do, health. I'm really looking forward to hearing this interview and again hearing the feedback of the community, because the point of this is to spark thought and get people's juices flowing and thinking about these issues. And, you know, what are you prepared to do? How are you prepared to bend? What are you prepared to take into your body? You know what I'm saying? These are questions that we're all having right now. So I'm really happy to have this interview going on today. Happy to be joined by Mr. Briggsy.
And today we might have a little half an hour discussion straight after the show, just to have a little dialogue over what we've heard, and give your personal opinions if you want to come onto the live panel chat. We will be putting it into the description box, so check out the chat room, and you may get the link to jump on board to have a little dialogue before we log back out again. But yes, we're now opened and now got our live back on track. We're going to be doing a lot of shows, a lot of activities, and, you know, a lot of things going on. And I'm calling out to a lot of music artists that have music videos for our second what do they call it? YouTube channel, which you can display your videos. You know, get people to give it some ratings, you know what I mean? So that it gives them more entertainment, because that YouTube channel will be more on the entertainment side of things. So we'll be having comedy, we'll be having cooking recipes, we'll be doing fashion and all sorts within the community, and, you know, talking about creatives and things like that. But on this channel will be more on the understanding and educational side of things, and talking to the big guns on this side of the waters. All right. So in the dialogue today, yes, Mr. Ritchie, what's been happening for the week?
Well, what I wanted to ask you, because we didn't really actually speak after the last show that we did. What was your opinion of it? Because obviously, you know, we had Cheryl Phoenix, the whole panel was on there, Stephen Sally. There's a lot of information. How did you find that last time, Tom?
It was very informative of people's opinions, because, you know, everyone has a different aspect, whether you're you do child support or children support, or you coming from a health support, or you're coming from a mental illness support. There's so many different walks of life. So into able to see where people are coming with their perspective of things, it gave a fresh understanding of how we're going to able to tackle this in 2021. So yes, very informative. But then at the same time, as I said, is that it didn't go really too much into details, but on the political side of things, it was very informative.
Okay. So what you're looking for more science? Would you like to see more science?
And understanding, but you know what it is? I don't want us to go too deep, but for the public to be able to understand it much more clearer. Because, you know, some people might go into so deep into the science that we'll just lose people because they don't really understand. So, you know what I mean? So it's good to see different perspectives of how they see it, so that we're able to move forward. And, you know, for me, I'm always about the traumas, because the traumas, if I'm in a form of trauma, how am I going to perceive this COVID-19 at this precise moment? And how am I going to able to deal with it? Because as this COVID is going on a high maneuver, so is mental illness is going on a high maneuver. So is dementia going on a high maneuver. So because there is a high situation of emotions flying around.
Yeah. Pressure.
So then when you're having these emotions, how are you going to able to perceive, or how are you going to able to deal with the situation that we're in right now, especially with these new laws on the lockdown?
No, well, that's it. I mean, the pressure of economic pressure and all sorts of going on stops people from problem solving.
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
and you know, even a lot of people, been overshadowed. This thing has overshadowed a lot of things in the fact that, you know, the UK has now come out of Brexit, come out of Europe, and they haven't no one's really talked about that, because that is a situation that can infect us even more, in the fact of, you know, like food shortages, different types of things shortages, where we depend on Europe to get. Now that we've come out of Europe, how are we going to get these things to able to heal ourselves from this COVID?
Well, so hard choices need to be made now on, you know, what you value in life, because again, it's a, you know, it's about the way of life that you want to live. You know, if you are happy to conform and you have too much of a stake here that you don't see any option in going anywhere. And just to be clear, I believe if you're living in any sort of city model anywhere in the world, you're subject to hearing these COVID conversations, restrictions, track and trace, whatever. But as we're saying, there's certain basic immunities, the food you're eating, the water you're drinking, you know, the air you're breathing, that you're going to have to really look at and say, is the quality of life I'm getting here with these restrictions, with this now extra threat of them putting stuff in your body, is it worth it? Am I going to enjoy the quality of life that I assumed I would? Or is it really time to pick up myself and go somewhere, again, for cultural purposes? Because remember, this is a damn ass racist country, but for a better quality of life as well. And it's how much you value that as opposed to whatever life you're leading here. I think that's going to be the big question to come for most people.
Yeah, and you know, you see, and this is what I like about what's today's happening, is that they've got a full-fledged doctor who knows what he's talking about. So, you know, they were able to have that dialogue with Minister Abdul Hakim, you know what I mean, the Nation of Islam. But we're all going through the same procedures. Doesn't matter what religion or what type of people you are, we're all going through the same struggle, and it's able to come in together and unifying ourselves, coming together. And you know, in the terms of unification, you know, I'm always asking for people who want to help out in very many organizations, even like in the Manhood Academy. We're always asking for people to come and, you know, come and help us out, you know what I mean, volunteers and things like that, because we want to start to create that community and that economy for our people as much as possible. And you know, it's not just about an area code or the same forms of London, but looking at things on an international plane, because the world is our oyster. And you know, it's how can we engage with people abroad as well as at home.
Definitely.
You know, and this is where Black Eyes TV is, for the people, by the people, you know. And if you have information or you have certain things, please give us a call or email us on blackicetv@gmail.com. If you feel like you want to promote your product or your services, or you want to advertise, or you have something to say, you know, Black Eyes TV is open for you, as for the people. This is what this channel is about.
Most definitely.
So, we'll be starting in about 15 minutes. But before we do 15 minutes, as we always do, we sometimes look into our little archives and see what we have available to show the public. You know, there's always many things that we have here. You know, and as I said, looking at certain things. You know, let's have a quick little brief. Let me see what I can give to the family. You know, there's always something nice and small. Let's have a quick look with what's available, nice and reasonable in the factors of it all. Oh my gosh. But yeah, but what's been happening with you anyway, Rich?
This week, Christmas, whatever, chilling, holding it down, enjoying the energies of the conjunction. Just again, preparing for this situation. I haven't really been on social media too tough for a hot minute. But again, as much as I like to review these subjects on a personal note, I'm trying to prepare myself and my kids for what's to come in it. So I've just been dealing with personal situations and getting the money right and all the rest of it. You get me? That's the best thing to do for now. Get myself in a fluid position so I can breeze this place. Because I don't want to stay personally. You get me? I don't think there's a future here.
As for the family, I think I might just play Q Butters, the tune that we always used to use back in the day. We were looking for music artists, and this is the kind of music that we want our children to listen to, not the crazy stuff. But it's always good to have different aspects of things. So let me just quickly play that for the meanwhile. Hold on, let me just get back to that. For the family, let's see what we've got in the archives. What we've got here, and okay, yeah. So,
for today's challenges on Anyone Can Trade, I'm going to teach my gardener. Now look, if he becomes a success.
Overcame the pain and all the hardships. We focus on our game and kept the targets. They try to take our brain and keep our raw gifts, but we still remaining. Now we bullshit, flawless. You know how I go. Black power looking good and we let it show. By the hour, yeah, and we let it grow. These crackers not doing nothing, we let them know. Nothing you can do gonna change us. We always gonna be around, we gonna bang what. We never gonna simmer down, you can't tame us. No religion, no Christianism can chain us. Crackers over your head when I'm talking. I'm repping for the light to the dark skin. RBG stepping when I walk in. Crackers really mad cause I'm flossing. Crackers all you see around me. I put my hands in these hearts in the streets, yeah, they lean on me.
The same script, hopping off the same shit ever since they dropped me off the slave ship.
Black is all you see around me. I put my hands in these hearts in these streets, yeah, they lean on me.
Rocking with the same script, hopping off the same shit ever since they dropped me off the slave ship.
Watch the step out, a black king. My fists in the air while I'm rapping. RBG, where you see my fashion. My family's all here, no lacking. You see the vision, it's all clear. Black power living here with no fear. We did the prisons, we dropped the tears. Now we're focused on this obvious. RBG, yeah, on the pop out. A cracker go to sleep, that's a knockout. What you want to eat, go and rock out. Black everything, this a lockout. The camera's on now, go and take a flick. The pressure been on, can't take a hit. Ever since they dropped me off the slave ship, I've been on the same shit. Black is all you see around me. I put my hands in these hearts in the streets, yeah, they lean on me.
Rocking with the same script, hopping off the same shit ever since they dropped me off the slave ship.
Black is all you see around me. I put my hands in these hearts in these streets, yeah, they lean on me.
Rocking with the same script, hopping off the same shit ever since they dropped me off the slave ship.
You think you be going like this? Hey, that's it. Come on, man. Come on, Mika.
You gotta show them how to swag it.
Come on, Mika. It's in your head. It's always music playing. Doom, 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 doom.
Cute butter going in. For those that don't know, that brother there, he has a school in New York, teaches the youth the STEM, goes in for the community. Joker.
Yeah. So you know, these are kind of like music videos that we have. We'll be starting in 9 minutes. Just waiting for the Nation of Islam to kick it off and send and show us when they're going to start. But yeah, brother, you said that there were some other links of some other videos that we can give to the public.
Hold up, I'm just putting up the link right now. Back to brother, that's come on BLACKICETV7 before.
Yeah,
Jamal see it there.
Okay, family. Let me see in its full. Okay. I'll play another video for one of our brothers from New York. Before we start, because we start very soon. Tell me if you like these videos, you know.
Also, this is my tune.
Man, it's only right I rise. I was born in the fall. My mama and my daddy rode in separate cars. Next time me and him spoke, I was 24. Them boys hard to reach behind them prison walls. Crack error, the proof in his eyes. In this world can't survive institutionalized. The streets will swallow you up like a wolf in disguise. Nowadays, hard to separate truth from the lies. So now I'm on a mission for the people. May your well wishes be equal and your enemies beneath you. The Hennessy is lethal. Be easy on that needle. I pray your heart is real like a Hebrew. We need you. I'm cooking up that work in the lab to supplement it. You know me from that work in the past. It's been a minute. I drop a couple verses. Pastors and the bishops be nervous. Your boy put a hurt in on religion. When all these days are gone, we'll walk up to the sun. When all these days are gone, we'll walk up to the sun. When all these days are gone, we'll walk up to the sun. When all these days are gone, we'll walk up to the sun. This that work for the serving out the kitchen. You lurking, just know I'm alert and in position. The son of a sauce, so my purpose about to click in. This Alhamdulillah when Jamal is back to mixing. I'm way too Marcus Garvey for pimping parties. Too Malcolm X to be out here flexing. Too much the youth is running around without directions. They got 1,000 questions, so they out here guessing. CEOs trying to find a way to own a business. In the streets, never Saturday, Jehovah Witness. We gotta bridge the gap, deliver the facts. As simple as that, they into that, it's bigger than rap. When all these days are gone, we'll walk up to the sun. When all these days are gone, we'll walk up to the sun. When all these days are gone, we'll walk up to the sun. When all these days are gone, we'll walk up to the sun. When all these days are gone, we'll walk up to the sun. When all these days are gone, we'll walk up to the sun. When all these days are gone, we'll walk up to the sun. When all these days are gone, we'll walk up to the sun.
Also, that's my tune right there. Big up to Jamal Milton. He will be coming back on the channel. Been on before. Good artist. Young guy. Enough knowledge. We'll be starting shortly. They're just getting ready. Should be starting in the next 4 minutes, I believe, or so. 4 or 5 minutes. So hold on tight. If you're coming in for the first time, make sure you hit that like button. Share the link out. People need to hear this conversation today. Big up to all that's joining us for the first time. Come true, hear the information. Black Ice TV, we back for the new year on the main platform. I'm happy.
Yeah. So we'll be starting in 4 minutes. Let me see something else. If there is one more video to head it out to the starting. Play another little anthem for us. That was just not meant to be playing, but it will be another one.
The D-Lock is Christ, peace.
Okay, one more, and then we will go into this. 3 minutes to go. So, family, just bear with us as it's going to come in. We'll play one more video before we head on to the next. We're just waiting for the NOI. No. No. We're waiting. Just waiting. Got 2 more minutes.
2 more minutes.
And we will be going live. Okay.
Wait, what's this conversation they were talking about yesterday? Ultra's talking about.
More conversations, that one.
He's saying, yo, Tesla, I loved your balanced approach yesterday on Nines.
Oh, okay, yeah.
What was the conversation?
No, it's just basic. Just individual. Not really a conversation to really talk about on this site.
It wasn't part of the group discussion. Say nothing. Say nothing.
Hold on. Still waiting for the nation to begin. We've got a minute to go. Let's play one more video. Let's play one more video for the people. Let's play a video.
You dare show, you dare win, you dare show, you goddamn you don't deserve to win. Let me say peace to you if you're willing to fight for it. Let me say it in the spirit of liberation. I've been gone for a while.
So my leaders ass gone, all my leaders ass gone. I know they did you so wrong and still standing here strong. Against all the wrongs, against all the wrongs, for my leaders ass gone. All my leaders ass gone. Although they did you so wrong, I still standing here strong. Against all the wrongs, against all the wrongs. Imagine if Malcolm would've never got killed. Crack in the hallways would've never got filled. Imagine if Marcus would've never had to chill. Blacks wouldn't be living in overpacked jails. Imagine if Asada never had to run. J. Edgar Hoover would've never won. Imagine if Javon would've had the gun. Black life songs would've never been sung. So I wonder how this world's gonna ever be. A place where these wrongs gonna ever cease. Can't transform to a better me when they teach my leaders on my enemies. So if you wonder what this pain is, try to picture this scene as it's painted. All of my leaders kill or they tainted. While we stuck with these crackers killing and raping. This what we facing, stuck in a world that's gone cold, with no feeling of control. As we wonder what it is and we wonder what it was and we wonder where we'll go. All this pain going strong and they feel it won't ease. So I put it in a song. All the feeling of these memories. So my leaders ass gone, all my leaders ass gone. I know they did you so wrong and still standing here strong. Against all the wrongs, against all the wrongs, for my leaders ass gone. All my leaders ass gone. Although they did you so wrong, I still standing here strong. Against all the wrongs, against all the wrongs.
Will they ever tell a young boy what's right? Imagine if my brother's skin color look white. I'm talking to my brothers, get it on all night. They took Soldier Blame, man, this shit ain't right. Told Martin Luther, get the things behind. Told Huey Newton, get the guns, let's go fight. So my black kids are still living, live your life. I'm just another brother trying to make it through the night. The people don't speak, cause the people don't love us. I tell you, if we speak, ain't nobody gonna touch us. Rosa kept the seat, wasn't waiting for another. I'm coming on these beats, cause this music I got love for. I be on the block, coppers wanna cover. Shout outs to my pops, shout out to my mother. We all we got. Justice, I'm coming from the streets, ain't no peace, ain't no justice. I'm part of this world where you never been. I learned the real life at the age of 10. Now I'm 25, you could do the math. Free my real niggas stuck up in the pen. Younger going hard, I know I'ma make it. Till it take me out, I'ma never fake. Headed to the
Signals drop for a second. Give us a moment, people. I think they're coming live. We'll be back momentarily. They're just getting set up now.
I remember you was conflicted, misusing your influence. Sometimes I did the same. Abusing my power full of resentment. Resentment that turned into a deep depression. Found myself screaming in the hotel room. Lucifer was all around me. So I kept running until I found my safe haven. I was trying to convince myself the stripes I got, making myself realize where my foundation was.
That reformed and eradicated the drug dealing and crime-ridden housing complexes of Washington, D.C. This brother in the 1990s, he helped to cause a seismic change in politics. And he inspired a whole generation of political activists that if you're going to run for Congress, if you're going to run for the Senate, this is the principle where you must do it. This was a man that has served as the national spokesman and representative and the Minister of Health of the Nation of Islam. He has delivered beautiful TED Talks regarding the original food and the human potential. He is the founder and medical director of the Abundant Life Attainment Center. The brother and the man I speak of is Dr. Abdul Alim Muhammad. Please give him a virtual round of applause. Assalamu alaikum, sir. How are you doing? How are you doing, good doctor?
Wa alaikum salam. I'm fine, thanks to Allah. I'm very happy to be here, very honored. Thank you for those kind words of introduction.
Oh, brother, it's just the surface of your resume, sir. Just the surface. So I'm hoping that people truly understand how you have been a servant for our people and the whole of humanity, mentally, spiritually, and physically, how you have served our people and the whole of humanity for decades, brother. So it's truly an honor and a pleasure for us to have you today.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. And so your main host for today is the European Regional Representative of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam. Yes, brother has been working tirelessly in resurrecting our people throughout Europe, and not just throughout Europe, even though he is the regional representation of the Nation of Islam for Europe, but he has also traveled to the Caribbean to raise our people. He's also traveled to the continent of Africa to raise our people. He has been invited over to America in the contribution to the raising up of our people. So this brother is truly an international voice that we are humbled to have, that's been put in this position by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And the brother that I speak of is Student Minister Abdul Hakim Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Hey, wa alaikum salam. Warm welcoming to you and to all of our audience via Facebook Live and also on this great forum of Zoom that has served us very well over the last 8 months. So warm welcoming, Dr. Alim.
Yes, very happy to be here. Very happy to see you again. It's been a long time since I was in the streets of London, one of my favorite destinations throughout the world, despite its notoriety, its world history. But yet, you know, the people of London and the city of London itself, the cosmopolitan nature of the city is really, really wonderful. So I'm happy to be here virtually back in London again.
Wonderful, because we have been blessed to host you on at least 4 occasions, and we have some very fond memories of having you here with us in the United Kingdom. Very fond memories. I remember us being in our offices in Brixton with you, and you know, extracting great wisdom and guidance from you in the early hours of the morning. I still have one of the lectures entitled, "Are We There Yet?" That was the last time you were here. Very fond moments, and we have a few on the line who were actually present during that marathon lecture that you gave to us that we still have on audio cassette tape.
Well, I would like to get a copy of that. I'm sure I don't have it.
Be a pleasure and a privilege. Now, as we've been discussing for the last 3 weeks, and obviously since March here in the United Kingdom, we've been going through various manifestations of how to respond to this pandemic commonly known as COVID-19. And here, Dr. Alim, I wanted to step back what we've been discussing over the last 3 weeks and roll it back to the beginning. We were made aware of this pandemic in the United Kingdom in March, where policies coming from government were now starting to impinge upon our daily reality. And the case in point is lockdown. The government's response here, as it was in many other countries, to the virus and the containing of the spreading, was to lock down an entire population. but I wanted to get your views on, you know, with hindsight, do you believe that locking down a whole population of a country is the wisest way to respond to the pandemic? Because the excuse that was used, and I say in that regard because I believe it was an excuse, that the reason for the lockdown was to prevent the health service in the United Kingdom from being overwhelmed. It wasn't to protect life. It wasn't necessarily to protect one's livelihood or to protect the elderly or to protect the young. It was to prevent the NHS that generally was not fit for purpose prior to the pandemic. You know, the idea was to protect it from being overwhelmed without offering any other solution. And obviously the lockdown led to many people losing their jobs, domestic relations deteriorating, children going stir crazy, you know, you name it, people suffering from a lack of ability to maintain good balanced mental health. So the consequences of the lockdown are far worse than if you just allowed the city to function as normal as possible or could be. So what's your views on the approach? What should have been done, or was lockdown the right thing to do?
Okay, well, that's a very great question. That's a very big question. And I'm going to take a few minutes to sort of create a context or give the historical context in which the lockdowns occurred, not just in the UK, but all over the world. So, you know, a lot of us, we live in our local or our national environments. We pay attention to what's going on immediately around us. Sometimes we overlook the fact that there's a wider perspective that's also involved. So one of the words that you used that caught my ear when you posed your question was, you said, you know, if we go back to the beginning. Okay, well, what is the beginning of what we are dealing with?
Right.
We have to know where we came from if we want to know where we're headed.
Right.
Okay, so if we go all the way back to the way society is organized, say in the UK, it follows the dictates of philosophers. This is according to, you know, Plato's Republic. If you want to set up a government, the king is not at the top, or the queen. At the top is the philosopher.
Right.
And so the philosopher of our age, whose ideas are dictating policy to kings and governments, is the UK's own Lord Bertrand Russell.
Right.
So if we want to go back to the beginning of what is taking place, we have to go back to 1953. Right. He published a book in that year called The Impact of Science on Society. Right. And let me just read a passage from that book, which actually created the policies that ended us up where we are today. He says, scientific societies are as yet in their infancy. It is to be expected that advances in physiology and psychology will give governments much more control over individual mentality than they have now, even in totalitarian countries. Fitch laid it down that education should aim at destroying free will, so that after pupils have left school, they shall be incapable throughout the rest of their lives of thinking or acting otherwise than as their schoolmasters would have wished. Listen to this. Diet,
wow,
injections, and injunctions will combine from a very early age to produce the sort of character and the sort of beliefs that the authorities consider desirable. And any serious criticism of the powers that be will become psychologically impossible. And he goes on, where he basically says that the agenda overall is to create at least two classes of human beings, sort of like Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, published in 1933, where you have a stratified societies, the alphas, the betas, the gammas, and the epsilons. This is like the island of Dr. Moreau that's been made into many different movies, where there was genetic experimentation taking place to create a human race ruled over by an elite. And so Lord Bertrand Russell in 1953 laid out the agenda, and ever since that time, kings and queens and princes, for example, Bonnie Prince Philip is famously quoted as having said that were he to be reincarnated upon his death, he would like to be reincarnated as a deadly virus so as to help with the overpopulation problem.
Right.
Well, it turns out that Bonnie Prince Philip, the royal consort of Her Majesty the Queen Elizabeth, it turns out that Bonnie Prince Philip established the Pierbright Institute for the study of coronaviruses, and in fact holds the patent for the COVID-19 virus that is ravaging the world. Not only that, the Pierbright Institute, which also has a major shareholder by the name of Bill Gates, also holds the European patent for the vaccine for the COVID-19 virus. So the view of Lord Bertrand Russell has been dictating policy ever since. And of course, the major objective, the underlying objective of the whole thing, even including the purpose of lockdowns, has nothing to do essentially with a virus and how to handle a virus. It has everything to do with an agenda of depopulation. So now, if you go to Wuhan, let's see, this is around the New Year. On New Year's Eve in Wuhan City, which was the epicenter of the epidemic a little less than a year ago, that was under total lockdown, they had a major New Year's Eve celebration in Wuhan, and nobody was wearing a mask, and they were in the streets, and they had the balloons and all of the confetti, and all of the stuff was going on as usual in Wuhan City, where they had a draconian lockdown. So to get to your question, you see what the Chinese did in a very timely fashion worked. That kind of a lockdown at the early stages of a pandemic, that works. Right. And that nipped the pandemic in the bud. And I can remember not so long ago, the world was horrified to hear that China had 80,000 COVID-19 infections, and there were 3,000 deaths, and the world was horrified. Right. Well, the UK and the United States and the rest of Europe, they get those kinds of numbers on a daily basis.
Right, right.
So do lockdowns work? Yes, if they are a part of an effective public health system and they are conducted with precision in a timely fashion. But a lockdown after, it's like that's closing the barn door after the horse has escaped. So lockdowns in the UK, lockdowns in the US and the rest of Europe, they have another agenda in mind. Why are you locked down? Why is the society shut down? Why is the economy in collapse mode? Why? Why are the schools shut down? Is it really true that the hospitals are overwhelmed, or is it the fact that the budget just isn't there to support a healthcare system? And then there's another aspect, brother, that I wanted to touch on later. I did an interview last week out of Philadelphia, and we got into some interesting things. And if I had to put a title on that interview, I would say Acts of War and Retaliation. And that's an aspect of the COVID-19 pandemic that almost nobody talks about. We are in the middle of war. This is not a natural pandemic that just emerged out of nowhere. This is an actual military conflict using biological weapons. And there have been acts of war and then retaliatory acts. And so we can get into that if you would like.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for that insight in setting us off on our journey this afternoon, because it seems as if the lockdown is causing more harm to the people, particularly here in the United Kingdom, and I'm sure in the United States of America, in regards to mental health, in regards to personal economics, and how it's ill affecting young people and children. So the actual effects of lockdown seem more devastating than the effects of the COVID-19 vaccine. Would you say that's a fair analysis?
Yes, except that it hasn't. I would agree 100% with what you said. But then, what is the actual cause of the lockdown? See, the lockdown is as devastating and harmful,
right,
to people, to the economy, to their psychological well-being, to family life, to culture, to arts, to everything that society is said to be about. Right. The whole civilization in the UK, the whole civilization in Europe has been shut down.
Right.
There's no theater, there's no music, there's nothing going on. It's been shut down.
Right.
Now, a year ago, or a little bit more, in December, in China, in Wuhan City, the UK and the United States and NATO forces conducted joint military drills with the People's Liberation Army. It was never clear to me exactly what the nature of those military drills were, but it was in Wuhan, in Hubei province in China. And according to the Chinese intelligence, they say that during those joint military exercises, NATO, especially the United States, deployed a biological weapon in Wuhan City and sparked the epidemic in Wuhan. Now, there is a biological weapons laboratory in Wuhan City, and the interesting thing is it was built with American dollars. It was built by Anthony Fauci. The chief architect of the Wuhan lab is Dr. Charles Lieber of Harvard University. And he was paid millions of dollars, and millions of dollars came from the United States National Institutes of Health to build that biological weapons laboratory in Wuhan City. Now, the interesting fact is Wuhan City also is the model city for the rollout of 5G technology throughout the world. So there's a connection between 5G technology and the COVID-19 virus that was released during a military exercise in December of 2019 in Wuhan City. So when they pulled the switch for the 5G, that also triggered the viral outbreak in Wuhan City, which is a city of about 10 million people. Well, the Chinese figured out, pardon me?
And it's also the home of where Apple have their headquarters also in China, right?
It's all, that's correct. And it's also the headquarters of Huawei, where President Trump has picked a fight with this high-tech company. It's all in Wuhan City. And so now this was timed to coincide with the Chinese New Year, when hundreds of millions of Chinese people crisscrossed the country, going back home, visiting relatives. And so this event was timed to coincide with the Chinese New Year, with the intent of spreading an epidemic throughout China to derail the Chinese economic juggernaut that is overtaking the West. Well, the Chinese figured out back in 2003 with SARS-1. See, COVID-19 is actually SARS-2. SARS-1 was figured out to be a genetic weapon ethnically targeting people of Asian descent. So that's why they were able to figure out instantly almost that this was just an upgraded version of the original SARS virus. That's why China was able to get a grip on it and flatten the curve with lockdowns. But that was not the only thing they did. They also sent for the Cuban medical brigades, led by Dr. Martinez Herrera, and they came in, hundreds of them from Cuba. They came in with interferon alpha 2B. And so they began to use different forms of interferon, similar to what we have here, the Paximune, to keep their healthcare workers safe. And then they were also using the injectable interferon in the ICU patients. And they were able to save thousands and thousands of lives and prevent their healthcare workers and other frontline workers from being infected by using an oral and a nasal form of interferon. And so that's how China flattened the curve. But now, on the military side, the generals in the People's Liberation Army said, wait a minute, this was a deliberate act of war against our population. And they said an eye for an eye. And so the retaliatory strike was against New York and London, metropolitan areas of similar size to Wuhan. Now, the virus that was in China, the original virus, had a mortality rate of 3.4%. There was another variant that was sent to Iran that had a mortality rate of 7.5%. But the virus that I believe was a retaliatory strike against Europe and America has an overall mortality rate of about 10%. And it's dubbed the Italian virus. But that's the virus that's raging all over Europe. And until recently was the primary virus raging in the UK. It's also the strain of the virus that's killing over 350,000 Americans all over the country. So this is a retaliatory strike. What evidence do I have that that might be true? Well, if you look at the statistics out of Africa, you see that the mortality and morbidity from COVID-19 is, I don't want to use the word negligible, but it's minuscule compared to the rest of the world. It's been estimated that 1/3 of the population in Africa has already been infected with COVID-19 with no symptoms whatsoever. And I think in the whole continent of Africa, you only have a few thousand, not that that's insignificant. I mean, life is life, but just a few thousand deaths attributable to COVID-19. Now, why would that be the case? Well, if the original SARS was created as a bioweapon against people of Asian descent, well, the retaliatory strike would kind of be, you know, a similarly designed genetic weapon. And it turns out that the COVID-19 variant raging in Europe and America specifically attacks people who have the Neanderthal gene. There's a gene that is linked to the Neanderthals that is on the 3rd human chromosome. So people who have that Neanderthal gene, they are more severely affected by COVID-19 than people who don't have that Neanderthal genes. So Africans had Neanderthal gene, but many people in Europe do. And so if you have that Neanderthal gene, then your morbidity and mortality rate is sky high. Now, China was able to absorb the initial biological weapons attack from the West. They were able to absorb it and survive it. Now the challenge for the West, Europe and America, can you survive the retaliatory strike?
Right. Well, they don't seem to be doing too well at the moment. And as a consequence of not doing too well at the moment, and it's interesting that you mentioned Wuhan being the epicenter of the rollout of 5G, because one of the main concerns that I have had here living in the United Kingdom, Dr. Alim, is, you know, the masses of the people being locked down, put under curfew. And then when we arose and woke up and started to travel again, we found that there were massive restrictions on the roads. So streets that I used to drive down, now they were turned into one-way streets or no-go zones, where if you drive down these streets, you're fined £65 to £135, going on to nearly $200. If you pay the £135 fine within 14 days, it's reduced to 50%. And if you don't pay, it keeps on escalating. And the insurance in the United Kingdom now is actually, car insurance has come down in value. And one of the reasons why is because there's so many people being banned from driving. So many people have stopped driving motor vehicles that to actually insure a car here in the United Kingdom is actually cheaper than it would have been last year. And it's gradually going down. But what I've noticed, Dr. Alim, in major residential areas is these road closures pushing all of the traffic onto the main thoroughfares, and the speed restrictions have been, or the restriction of the speed is down to 20 miles per hour, you know, generally in residential areas. And this is all over the city. So one of the things I'm looking at, Dr. Alim, because it was just announced last week that Apple are moving at breakneck pace to design this driverless car. Google are doing the same, working breakneck pace to usher in driverless vehicles. And it seems very clear that the speed of a driverless vehicle, in order for it to be safe, would be 20 miles per hour. So the way how lockdown is being used to systematize, if you will, or really regulate cities in a way that, you know, as people are accustomed to in China, you know, the whole country is literally under surveillance. And America and Europe has really been behind the curve in regards to regulating their populations by controlling the movements of the masses of the people. So here in the UK, we have all these smart cameras that have literally just gone up more so in the last 8 to 10 months based upon the lockdown. So if the lockdown was designed, as we're still on that point, you know, to protect the masses of the people and to minimize the spread, then why is so much money being invested in the reconstruction of these cities, you know, and the collapse of people's personal economies taking place simultaneously? It seems there's a two-pronged sort of question, because it seems as if there's a massive attack on the middle classes, those who are pulling themselves up from their bootstrings and now starting to impinge upon the wealth of the wealthy. It seems as if the devastation that is taking place from lockdown is throwing the masses of the people back into the crab bucket. So how would you decipher those dynamics that I've just raised?
Well, you said it's a two-pronged question. I would say it's probably a 10,000-pronged question. And it actually gets into the heart and the nature of this whole pandemic. You see, it's very complex, and it exists multidimensionally. Right. And even some parts of it seem to contradict other parts. You see, and so you just always have to rise to a higher level to get a bird's eye view of what the whole thing is really all about. See, what are the lockdowns really all about? Is it to protect the National Health Service? Is it to protect the general population? Or is it something else? Well, again, if you look at the global situation, there is a global economic reset that is taking place. That's a term that's being bandied about. Well, what is the global economic reset? Well, I know here in the United States, almost nobody knows anything about it because it's not widely reported in the accepted media. And I don't know about the UK, but I would imagine you have highly censored news, and the general population is not being informed about the global economic reset, where we are experiencing the death of the petrodollar system. Right. The collapse of the petrodollar system means the collapse of the Anglo-American dominance of global economic activity. And the shift is to the east. And economic power that used to be shared between London and New York now resides in Shanghai. Right. There is no gold in the gold bullion banks in London anymore. Right. There is no gold in Fort Knox in the United States anymore. The gold that used to be in Fort Knox, the gold that used to be in the banks in London, now is in Shanghai. And they have a gold exchange that is set up in Shanghai. And so the economic power in the world has shifted to the east. Now, some economic experts have estimated that when this economic reset is over, that in the United States, I don't know about the UK, but in the United States, Americans are going to have to adjust to a loss of about 86% of their purchasing power. In other words, something that costs $1 today, when the reset is over, will cost $6. So if you're paying $3 for a gallon of gas, as we pay for it here, okay, it'll be $18. And now a similar situation will be all throughout the UK and Europe. So in other words, the real purpose of the lockdown is to get people used to austerity. Yes. That there's no work. Right. That the reality is there's no food. Right. There were movies that were out a few years back called The Hunger Games. Right. That was very popular. Well, we are actually in the Hunger Games, where areas are being walled off, where meager resources are doled out, kind of like on a, what's the word I'm looking for? But on like a welfare basis. Yeah. And everybody just gets a paltry amount of something. So this is called guaranteed income, rationing. That's the word I was looking for. Mm-hmm. There's rationing taking place in the West, a ratcheting down. You're right, the destruction of the middle class. Now there's another sinister purpose. Remember that Prince Philip said that there was a population problem, an overpopulation problem. So one of the real purposes of the 5G network that was rolled out while everybody was locked down, see, they put the 5G towers in the schools, in the public buildings, in the malls, in the churches, in the subway stations, the tubes, you call them, I guess. Yes. And so every neighborhood now is saturated with 5G towers. Now, when you turn a 5G tower on, you can tune it. You can tune it. And each virus has a frequency. So it's like tuning a radio to a particular station. So if I want to turn on a COVID-19 virus in a particular neighborhood, all I have to do is tune the 5G network to that frequency, and boom, you have an outbreak of the virus in that particular neighborhood, or that particular area, or that particular city, or even in that particular individual. It could be targeted to individuals. So people are paying attention to the chaos in the American political system. And some people have pointed out, isn't it interesting that no prominent Democrat, from Joe Biden all the way down, no prominent Democrat has ever come down with COVID-19.
Very true.
The only ones that come down with COVID-19 are the Republicans. So if that doesn't tell you something, you know. See, so the sinister aspect of this, see, some conspiracy theorists say they say that everybody's going to be rounded up and put into concentration camps for extermination. Now, those theories, of course, have all been debunked, and for a very good reason. They've been debunked because it's not necessary to round people up and put them in concentration camps.
Right.
All you have to do is keep them at home. And then you inundate their minds with mind control messages on the television. And then at any time that you decide to, you can make them sick with the 5G tower that's right next door. And listen to this, the 5G network is running wherever it's been installed so far at about 5% of power. And it turns on viruses and does things, nasty things that people are complaining about. It killed my garden, for example, in my patio. I put 5G in 2 years ago, killed my garden plants. So I had to take it out. But that's only running at 5% of power. What would happen if they turned the 5G network up, say, to 100%? You and I would be sizzling like hot dogs in a skillet in our homes. Literally. It would be like we were living in a microwave oven. So that is actually the intended long-term objective, is not to dramatically kill hundreds of millions of people in their homes all at one time. No, but like the towers that burned up there in London or wherever that was last year or 2 years ago. How many people got burned up in that building?
Thousands at the Grenfell Tower?
Yes, okay. See, it'll be gradual events like that.
And they say it was hundreds, but you know, there were so many who were quote unquote refugees who were undocumented.
Exactly.
You know, that didn't necessarily add to the overall
and who's counting them? See, these are the unmentionables. You see, this is the riffraff. These are the useless eaters.
Right.
These are the people that are disposables.
Right.
You see, here in the United States and probably in the UK, people in hospitals or nursing home facilities cannot be visited by relatives.
Right.
And then a story comes out, oh, grandma died from COVID-19 or this. How do you know?
Right.
Nobody was there to witness anything.
Right.
And they're not even allowing people to have proper funerals and burials. They're just cremating bodies.
Right.
And they're saying that they're giving, and then a lady from Johns Hopkins University, Dr. Bayard, you can look this up. When she looked at the death statistics for the United States for 2019 and compared it for 2020, she didn't see any significant difference. She just saw that the usual deaths from influenza were just shifted to a new category called COVID-19. But there was no overall excess deaths.
Here in the United Kingdom, you've actually had less deaths on the previous year, say from 2019 to 2020. The population increased, you know, at a greater rate as opposed to, you know, the fatality. So more people are actually living longer here in the UK with COVID-19 as they did the year before. So the point you make is very well established. But one of the things I wanted to ask you, because I know our listening audience really want to jump into solutions. But one of the questions I wanted to ask, which has really been riding me for a while, because I've never heard a minister of health in the West actually come forward and give a press conference and offer any natural remedies for any illness, not even a common cold. They've never even said, you know, you should juice some oranges, you know, put some garlic in there, or whatever the case may be. Like, never have I heard a so-called minister of health offer a natural remedy. And I remember I had a family member who was suffering with arthritis. And he was my age, similar, about 36, 37. He was my age. But he had but he had this chronic arthritis, and it was affecting the way how he walked and most of his joints. And he went to the best doctors that money could buy. Then when he went to Harley Street, one of the doctors leveled with him and said, look, the reason why you're suffering so chronically from arthritis, it's got nothing to do with you genetically by way of, you know, it's not an illness. It's because you're originally from a hot country. So if you want to solve the problem, stop taking medication and go and live in a hot country. He did that. He literally took the doctor's advice and he went and lived in a hot country. He's never had arthritis since. So all of that to say, you know, how many health professionals, you know, who actually get paid by government for the work they do, how many health professionals can we actually look to who would give us honest advice? And have you ever heard a minister of health who represent a government actually give advice and guidance on natural remedies for any illness, much less COVID-19?
Okay, well, you asked the best questions, you know, and it deserves a really good answer. But the short answer, how many health professionals would give that kind of advice that you could trust? None. How many ministers of health would give such advice? None. And there's a very good reason why. When I was in medical school, I can't tell you how many hours of lectures we had on drug therapy. You know, just tons and tons of lectures on drug therapy. And out of 4 years of medical college, we only had a 1 hour lecture on nutrition. And I was the students who raised my hand. I said, how come we only get 1 hour? And the professor looked at me, he said, young man, that's all we know. And that's the truth. All that is taught in medical colleges for the last 100 years is drug therapy. That's it. Now, in the United States, the Rockefellers, they financed a commission called the, it's just escaping me right now, but in 1912, they sponsored a commission to go around the country and to certify medical schools. So at that time, there were 13 Black medical schools, and there were dozens of Black nursing colleges. And when the Flexner Commission, financed by the Rockefellers, got done, almost all of those nursing schools and those Black medical colleges were shut down. And the only two that were left was Howard and Meharry. So therefore, to fast forward, and I'm sure you have a similar story in the UK, you have a massive shortage of doctors and nurses of certain ethnicities. You have been deliberately deprived of medical education, deliberately deprived of the ability to take care of yourself, deliberately reduced into a situation where you are in the hands of people who know nothing about health per se, which is based on nutrition. All they know about are drugs. In other words, pharmaceuticals.
Why do we trust these people so much, Dr. Alim? Like,
because we're brainwashed. We've been brainwashed. And again,
sorry,
we've been deprived of our own knowledge. Look, we're talking about vaccines, right?
Right.
So it was an Englishman, Dr. Jenner, who observed so-called witch doctors in Uganda. He observed them taking blood from cows that were infected with the cowpox. And then they would take a thorn and get a little blood from that cow. And then they would use that same bloody thorn and they would scratch the skin of children. And it would protect them from smallpox. Cowpox in cattle protected humans from smallpox. And so Jenner took that back to England and developed this whole concept that we now call vaccines. The word vaccine comes from the Latin vox, which means cow. Okay, it's all about the cow. So now again, back to nutrition. You can go the artificial route, which is the vaccine paradigm, create these synthetic chemicals to try to induce immunity, or you could go the natural route. To get back to your question, you could teach people, for example, to drink whole, raw, pure, grass-fed, pasture-produced raw milk. And that would give broad spectrum nutritional support. Anytime that you look at someone who is ill, there's a problem in the body of any type, it's due to a problem in nutrition. There's a nutritional deficiency, and it leads to some clinical problem in the body. If you want to fix what's wrong in the body, you have to fix the diet. So now that's what we're dealing with right now. You're dealing with a population of people who have been fed devitalized food. So they have severe nutritional deficiencies. Well, a nutritional deficiency is the same thing as immune deficiency. Let me close on this point. The journal Science reported recently that the people who are most severely affected by COVID-19 have several nutritional deficiencies, one of which, of course, is vitamin D. But the other one that is highly significant is they are deficient in a cytokine, which is a part of the immune system. They're deficient in alpha interferon. And so that's what we are using with the Your Immunity Project. This is what cured AIDS. This is what is able to handle any virus, no matter how much it mutates. And so if you look on the label, I don't know if you can read it, it says bovine proteins. Well, what is milk besides bovine proteins?
Right.
And so, in other words, it's nutrition that heals. That's the point. It's nutrition that heals, even if it's formulated in a special way, like the Paximune. Yet, all you're really doing when you give somebody the Paximune is you're feeding them what they're deficient in. And once you correct that nutritional deficiency, you have also corrected their immune deficiency. And with a competent immune system, they're able to defend themselves against COVID-19 and any other virus that ever comes down the pike.
And we're going to need to discuss before this is over how we can get some of the Paximune here in Europe, you know, and avoid it being interfered with, you know, but we're going to need to have as much of it as we possibly can because we need an alternative. And there's many people who are saying that they're not going to take the vaccine, but we need to have something in our medicine chest. Go ahead, sir.
Now here's the science behind it. I said earlier that China flattened the curve with the help of the Cuban medical brigades, and they came in with a similar type of interferon. And if you go to our Facebook page, we started something called the Your Immunity Project, and we have a Facebook page. And you can find the research article that I'm referencing here. You can find it on that Facebook page. But basically what happened in Wuhan City, they mobilized medical workers, doctors and nurses from all over China to go to Wuhan to assist in handling the situation there. And they gave, it was almost 3,000 of them. They gave them this low dose interferon. And these were frontline nurses and doctors dealing with the most severely affected patients. And not a single one of those doctors or nurses got infected because they were using the low dose interferon. And so that's the scientific proof up to date that this is the best preventative. So now, if you have something that is scientifically proven to prevent contagion 100%, then my question would be, what do you need a vaccine for?
And particularly,
here's a natural product with no side effects, 100% effective, very cost effective as well, very cheap. What do you need a dangerous vaccine for?
Right, particularly being designed by those who we know traditionally have not had our best interest at heart.
Well, now you raised a very interesting point. Who did design this mRNA vaccine that has never been tested before? Well, if you actually say, the Pfizer vaccine, that's just a version of Kaiser. And so the Kaiser vaccine comes out of Germany. There's a subsidiary company in Germany, I can never remember the name of it, but it's a subsidiary company under Pfizer. So about 1.5 years ago, wouldn't you know it, Bill Gates, the great computer programmer, he signed a contract with this company to produce a vaccine that is programmed. And so when you say mRNA vaccine, you're talking about a vaccine that is actually a program, like a computer program. See, everybody, if I said, do you know what hardware is? You say, sure, I know what hardware is. If I said, do you know what software is? You would say, sure, everybody knows that. If I said, do you know what wetware is? What's wetware? Okay, now we're talking about biological systems, which are wet, that are now programmable. And so how do you get the program into a living system? You inject it. And that's what messenger RNA, the M stands for messenger. It carries a message. In other words, a coded message, a computer programmed message. And it actually programs your living cells to do what the programmer wants your living cells to do. And guess what that is? With the first version of this mRNA vaccine, the message is telling your cells to produce the S protein. The S stands for spike. People have seen pictures of the COVID-19 virus, and that these spikes coming out. Okay, well, the vaccine causes your cells to produce those spikes. And they say that's what causes your immune response to the vaccine. But the other thing that the spikes do is it causes infertility in women, so that the placenta will not implant in the uterine wall. It causes sterility in men because it causes those spike proteins interfere somewhere in the seminal vesicles in men, causing sterility. So what is the real purpose of the vaccine is what Bonnie Prince Phillips said, to help with the overpopulation problem. Right. The problem isn't the virus, the problem is you.
Right.
That's why you're in lockdown.
What's so ironic to me is that it seems like a natural progression of evolution for somebody who is as computer savvy and brilliant as somebody like Bill Gates. If Bill Gates has been in the software world for decades of time, surely he would have gone beyond just designing computers and gone beyond just producing, these types of metal resistors or components that make up a computer. Surely his mind is desirous of a different kind of challenge. And that new challenge that he has undertaken, obviously, is to alter the human being in liquid form. So rather than having, a hard physical by way of the structure that makes up a computer, for him to be able to evolve that to liquid form in his mind, he is acting out the work of a god to be able to transform the human being and hence transform the world ultimately. So it seems like Dr. Alim, a natural progression for a man who's been the richest man in the world for decades of time now. What else do people expect him to do? He could either use his money for good, or he's going to use it to create the type of world that he wants to see. So whether we agree with his vision or not, it really is his prerogative, because he has earned this type of money, he has developed these skills, and he wants to now actualize the vision in his mind. So the problem is not necessarily him actualizing the vision in his mind, as diabolical as it may be. The question is, with all the information we have been taught over all of these years of consciousness, with all the resources we have acquired, with all of that combined, the question is, what the hell have we done to further our vision for a world, this utopia where we can all enjoy freedom, justice, equality, and a state of peace? What have we done to further that? Because what we're actually seeing and being the victims of is a man like Bill Gates and his cohorts furthering their vision and funding it, even though it's to our detriment. So I want to speak to that, because we're always going to have enemies. But the question is, what are we doing for ourselves to make us less vulnerable to those who don't have our best interest at heart?
Wow, see, you asked the best questions, and there's so many ways of trying to answer that. But you said that we always have enemies, and that's true. Now, here in the United States, the Secretary of Health and Human Services that's behind the whole vaccine push over here is a man by the name of Azar, A-Z-A-R. Now, some of the theological scholars know of Abraham's father. So Father Abraham, the father of the righteous, the father of the three religions. His father's name was Azar, and he was a pagan. He was the chief priest of the Babylonian religion under the authority of King Nimrod. Right. And so Abraham rebelled against paganism, human sacrifice, and he established the monotheistic religions. And so, as you rightly said, we always have enemies. And so the enemies of Abraham 4,600 years ago, the descendants of those enemies are the enemies of the descendants of Abraham today.
Right.
And so what are they up to today? They're up to the same tricks they were up to yesterday. Nimrod claimed that he was God.
Right.
Okay, so what is Bill Gates claiming? God. In his own way, he's claiming that he's God, and he's going to meddle with God's creation of the human being, which of course is in the DNA material, the genetic code that makes us human. Right. So Bill Gates says, well, if I can insert a certain different message into the genetics of humans, then they will be my creation. This is what they call transhumanism.
Right.
Where they basically want to reprogram the genetics of human beings and turn them into what they call some transhuman kind of machine mixed with a person type, almost like the Matrix movie.
Right.
Only this time, you see, in the movie, the technology was so primitive, they had to put something in the back of your head.
Yes, exactly.
But now, as you said, see, Bill Gates is smart with all that money. Oh, you don't have to do that. All you have to do is convince people to roll up their sleeves, and we'll inject the electronics, the radio frequency ID chips that are on a nanoscale with the vaccine. Here's how it works. The vaccine is in a syringe, and in the syringe are radio frequency ID chips that give you the serial number of that vaccine dose and the lot number. And so the nurse, when she administers the vaccine, she taps the cell phone and it uploads that lot number and the serial number of that dose into a database. Then she injects those radio frequency ID chips into you along with the vaccine that also contains embryonic fetal cells, human fetal cells. So that's when Daniel told them not to eat the meat of the king of Babylon, they didn't mention what the meat was.
Right.
It's human meat.
Right.
So when they inject the vaccine, they're making you into a cannibal.
Right.
So now, how were they able to track the vaccine as it was shipped from the factory on the trucks and into the warehouse and to the distribution points? Oh, because they had these radio frequency tracking devices. So now they just injected that into you. So now they can track you.
Right.
You see? So now if you're in the Uber car or in the train or you're in the plane, no matter where you are, you're trackable. Now, the other electronic component that is in the vaccine, so I'm told, is the actual mark of the beast, which is to say, a digital wallet. Imagine that, an injectable digital wallet that tells everybody who has a scanner how much you're worth.
Right.
You walk into a store, they don't have to have you open your wallet. Your whole body tells them how much you're worth. And
Justin Timberlake was in a movie, I can't remember what it's called, where you had to purchase time. And with a scanner, you could read the worth and the value of the individual by looking to examine how much time. Because what you're pretty much saying is that each human being is being barcoded like a piece of food in a supermarket.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. In other words, if you're paying attention to the collapsing economies in the West, the only thing that has given a boost to those economies is the vaccine announcements.
Right.
In other words, so this is the monetization of vaccines. It's tied to the stock market now to make the exchanges go up, to make people think that things are getting better, when in fact the productive economy has been shut down. But now, if you have the monetization of vaccines, so they're tied to the stock market, just as you said, now you have the commodification of human beings, because now they're branded with a barcode that is actually flowing through their system with their blood.
Right.
And just like the movie, see, if time is money, see, you run out of money, you just ran out of time, because in those electronics that are injected with the vaccines, so I'm told, there's a kill switch.
Yeah.
Meaning that whoever controls all of that can designate you as no longer fit to live, or
again,
a bad investment.
Again, Dr. Alim, I think we lack the ability to conceptualize a well-educated man or woman who's always come from privilege, being given tens of billions of dollars. They don't need a car. They don't need a big gold chain. They don't need a watch. They don't need a yacht. They don't need homes. They have come from privilege. So when somebody has come from privilege and they have access to tens of billions of dollars or pounds, we've got to try to get into the thinking of somebody who has that kind of access. How much money would they invest in the food industry? How much money would they invest in technology? How much money would they invest in the way how males relate to females? How much money would they invest in all of those who are in that position collectively? What would be the vision that they have for humanity 50 years henceforth, 100 years henceforth? And as you said it earlier, how would they seek to immortalize themselves, to literally be here forever? I wanted to go back to something you mentioned in regards to even the cow. You know, the longest surah in the Holy Quran is the second surah, Al-Baqarah, the cow. that cannot be an accident, right? And the mere fact that, you know, Jeff Bezos is rolling out these smart supermarkets there in America, where when you go into the supermarket, you have a smart trolley, and all of the food you put in the trolley, it tabulates it as you go along. And then you just walk straight out without going to a tiller to have everything scanned and paying. It debits your account as you put food in your smart trolley. Here in the UK, since lockdown, many shops have gone cashless. You know, you can't go into certain shops with cash. It's only credit card or Apple Pay or, you know, whatever the case may be, but there's no money exchanged. And that, I saw the advantage of that, because if I had a business like many of these businesses, and, you know, people handling money, it sometimes can make people susceptible to stealing, you know, when they're handling a lot of cash. But when somebody doesn't have to handle any cash, then, you know, you've literally eliminated, you know, criminality on a low level. You know, somebody has to become cyber astute in order to steal from you. And the way how you see, Dr. Ali, because I know I'm loading up these questions, the way how we see the unsophisticated human being forced to learn something about science in order to survive. There is an upside, even though there's a real diabolical side of this. But are we not now being challenged that in order to save our lives, we have to now become more scientific in order for salvation to be offered to us? Because the unsophisticated man, the unsophisticated woman is just not going to make it. Because as you might can shed some light on, the actual virus itself is really wiping out many of us who have high blood pressure, hypertension, you know, all of these additional health challenges, obesity. So in order for us to actually survive what's coming, you know, what are some of the scientific basic things we have to learn in order to fit in the 21st century anyway?
Okay, once again, you know, that's a huge question, you know, and I'll try to touch on several of the points contained in that question. And I'm going to try to link it to the previous question where we were talking about Bill Gates and maybe what the ultimate agenda is that's connected to transhumanism. But what is the ultimate goal of transhumanism? It's called artificial intelligence. Right. Artificial intelligence. Now, what would be the purpose of trying to do that, to create a global artificial intelligence for world rulership? What would be the purpose of that? Well, the purpose of that would be to create what spiritually inclined people would call the false Messiah or the Antichrist. In the Islamic eschatology, the science of the end times, people are looking for Dajjal, D-A-J-J-A-L, Dajjal, who is said to be some kind of a one-eyed creature who rules the world. Well, look at what a computer sees with a single eye. You see, not the two eyes of a human. And so when we listen to President Trump, when we listen to Bojo over there in the UK, when we listen to most of the world leaders, are we really listening to humans, or are we listening to robotic automatons? And in fact, are we actually looking at people at all, or are we looking at robots that are humanoid? Or even further out, could it be possible that we're looking at computer graphic holograms, and that the actual person that we think we're looking at doesn't even exist except as a computer generated holographic image? And so transhumanism, taken to its full extent, produces a world ruler which would be commonly referred to as the Antichrist. So then, to get to your question, what should we do about the Antichrist? we have to stand up and be those crystallized into oneness with the true Christ. See, we have to stand up and really be those who are the followers of Nabi Musa alayhi salam. We have to be real Hebrews, those who cross over from one world into another world, a world of evil into a world of righteousness. We have to be the Christians, you know, those who are really crystallized into oneness with Nabi Isa, those who recognize, you know, the prophethood of Nabi Isa and follow his teachings. And of course, those of us who follow the teachings of Prophet Muhammad. May Allah be pleased with him and his blessings be upon him. So those who are the followers of the great worthies of God, if they actually just stood up and became exemplars of what they were taught, that puts an end to the whole thing. Be a human being, in other words, in the image and the likeness of God. Do what Jesus said. Resist the devil and he will flee from you. Do what the Holy Quran says. It says that the devil is ever a weak opponent. So what does it take in order to resist the devil? It takes a knowledge of the truth. Well, how do you get the truth? Well, you have to be a Muslim. You have to be one in submission to the will of God. Well, how do you come into submission to the will of God? You have to read the signs that God gives you in the heavens. If you pray, you got to pray on time, which means you got to observe the motions of the sun, the moon, and the stars. And if you observe the motions of the sun, the moon, and the stars, then you become a scientist. You're no longer a fool. And you can no longer be deceived by those who want to keep you looking down. God wants you to look up so you can see the glory of his universe. Anyone who observes the glory of God's universe becomes wise and full of knowledge and cannot be deceived by a devil. And so that's the answer. We just have to be ourselves and do something for ourselves. And when we say be ourselves, we're not ignorant fools. We weren't created by God to be somebody's slave. No, we are the gods and the goddesses of the universe, you know, and that's our ancient history. And we just have to catch up with ourselves again and be ourselves again.
Fantastic. You know what I'm going to do after that answer? I'm going to give you a round of applause.
Thank you. All praises due to Allah.
But what I wanted to bring you back to was a conversation that Elon Musk had with Jack Ma. And Elon Musk is busy in himself trying to put down the average human being and say that the computer is wiser than the human being. This is why the computer is able to beat the man at chess and really run him ragged in most things. And Jack Ma's response to Elon Musk was the human being is, the computer is intelligent, but it's not smart. It's intelligent, but it's not smart. Therefore, the human being, because the human is smart, can design the computer and make it more intelligent than him, but the computer can't design the human being and make it more smarter than itself. You know, so, and he shut Elon Musk down. But it didn't stop Elon Musk from continuing to design also a microchip that can be inserted in the brain of the human being to cause the human being to be more intelligent. So again, these are men with tremendous amounts of money who have all of the creature comforts that anybody could want and then some. So their mind is no longer on creature comfort. Their mind is on immortality. And too many of us, Dr. Alim, are still in survival mode. So a man in survival mode, a woman in survival mode, even after having knowledge or being exposed to the majesty of the wisdom that you're sharing with us today, what are some of the takeaways that you can give to our audience? Because many on the line, many in the community have knowledge and listen to master teachers like yourself, but suffer from the ability to actually actualize the knowledge and the wisdom that they know and turn it into a lifestyle. We become, I heard a man say years ago, hagiographers, where we can quote everything great, but by way of reflecting a great, healthy, intelligent, scientific lifestyle, that's where the majority of us fall foul. So how can we, translate one into the other in going forward?
Yes, well, thank you for another great question. And there's so many different ways that could be answered, but it reminds me of something that was given to the world by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in 1986, when he introduced the study guide series known as Self-Improvement, the basis of community development.
Right.
Well, my observation over these years since the introduction of that topic is that there hasn't been much community development.
Right.
There has been a significant degree of individual improvement. As you noted, we have people who know everything about everything. They got closets stacked up with the minister's tapes, and they got libraries full of books that were unobtainable. When I was in college, we didn't even know there was such a thing as Black history. Now you have whole libraries and museums dedicated to those subjects. So it's not any longer a lack of knowledge, and it's not any longer a lack of skilled and educated people among us.
Right.
So when I was contemplating, well, if we're already improved so much that we even have a Black president of the United States who played the political game and won, then what actually is wrong with us that we don't have this community development?
Right.
And then I realized that the missing ingredient is something that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave to us. I don't know when he started this, but back in the late 60s, in the Muhammad Speaks newspapers, he used to have some artwork there showing the terrible condition that our people were in. And the caption underneath that picture, he said, "Create love in your heart for your people who are suffering in the mud." And I thought about that. Why did he use the word create?
Right.
Why didn't he just say, love your people? No, he said, create love in your heart. Well, you have to create something when it does not exist.
Right.
So we have been deprived of the love of self.
Right.
So it doesn't matter if we have a PhD. It doesn't matter if we're the president of the United States. It doesn't matter what title we have. It doesn't matter how much money we have. Without the love of self, without the knowledge of self, all of that doesn't help self in the collective sense. And so what we have for the most part, brother, are people who have individually improved to the level that they were individually comfortable.
Right.
I'm good. But without love for one another, you see, that improvement doesn't extend to somebody else. And so what we have to do is understand our responsibility to ourselves does not end with our skin.
Right.
In other words, who am I? Am I just Alim Muhammad? Or is Alim Muhammad who Alim Muhammad accepts responsibility for?
Right.
And so as a man or woman in the image and likeness of God, born with a divine mission from God, will I or will I not accept my full responsibility? Now, when I was in medical school, I was asked to give us, these career days they have in high schools. I was a medical student, so they asked me to go to a Black high school dressed up in a white coat, to speak to high school students. And I didn't know what to say. And so I asked the minister at the mosque what I should say. And he said, well, I'll ask the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And so the message came back from Chicago. He said, tell them that an educated person is one who makes a contribution among people, not somebody that has a PhD or an MD.
Right.
But an educated person is someone who makes a contribution among people. And you see, so that's what's missing, brother. We have highly educated people, highly qualified people, but for some reason, we are not making the contribution that we need to make towards one another. And the reason for that is that we have not done what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said. He did say, go seek education and qualification, but he also said, create love in your heart for your own people. So when we do that, then we will find the proper application of our qualification. Can you still see me? Okay, something happened with my phone. Okay, and then we will find the proper application of our skill and our education. But without that love in our hearts for one another, oh yeah, we'll have all the qualification in the world, but it won't mean very much. And we won't unite with one another because it's only love that produces unity. Love is affinity for one another. I desire to be with you, but without that love, I desire to be apart from you.
Yeah. So I wish I could have you here for maybe 3 months. But the 120 minutes that we allocated for this morning, I know you've got some very important things to do with your mother in the next 30 minutes. So it would be totally unjust of me to not allow those 201 persons on the Zoom to not have an opportunity to engage with you by way of questions. But before we go to questions and I bring in my co-host, I just want you to give us an overview of the treatment, the cure that you have been a part of developing in regards to and distributing, that we can hopefully strategize to see how we can get them over to the United Kingdom and in Europe, so that in case we do fall sick, we will have something in our survival kit that we can use to restore our health.
Okay, well, thank you. And let me just start at the beginning again. I was faced with a challenge in 1991. I had a young man in my office who tested positive for HIV. And he wanted to know what was my alternative therapy. He didn't want to take AZT. Long story short, by September of 1991, Minister Farrakhan had sent Brother Walid Muhammad, the editor of the Final Call newspaper, and myself to Nairobi, Kenya. We met Dr. Barbara Justice there. We were taught by Dr. David Koesh on the use of Kemron, which was the first known treatment for HIV based on interferon, and Kemron was the brand name. And so we came back, we did a small clinical trial. We did a larger clinical trial by 1996, and we proved, and we announced it at the Million Man March, the first proven cure of HIV was done with alpha interferon. And so now here we are faced with COVID-19. And so the same interferon that Minister Farrakhan said, we want alpha interferon. Well, here it is. Now the brand name is no longer Kemron. Kemron didn't last very long for various reasons. But now this is the upgraded version of interferon. It's very stable. It's in a liquid form. So this is kind of a spray squirt nozzle. So you can instill it in the nose or directly in the mouth. Now for prevention, 2 squirts are enough. When I say prevention, what does that mean? It means that if you're not infected, have no symptoms, but you're out and about and you might be in contact with people, then just use 2 sprays of this per day. Now, if you are already infected or you have symptoms or you suspect that you might be sick, well, then you would use 4 sprays per day. So prevention, 2 sprays, treatment, 4 sprays. Now, how do you get this? Well, I would advise you to contact me through my website. There are people who are selling Paximune online, but there's a lot of shall we say, hustling going on. So I would say buyer beware. But if you want to be sure about what you're doing, and you also want to be a part of the Your Immunity Project clinical trial, then you go to dralim.com. Now you spell the word doctor all the way out, DOCTOR, Alim.com, and you find out all about the Paximune, how you can get it either by the single bottle or preferably by the case. Right now we have more than 30,000 people who are using the Paximune in the United States. We actually shipped some to the UK. Somebody over there already bought some. And also into the Caribbean. Yeah, I think Brother Simon bought some. I think it was Brother Simon. I'm not sure.
He didn't share, Dr. Alim. He didn't share.
Well, I don't know.
He didn't share.
I think he bought it and maybe sent it someplace else. But anyhow, we're in about 10 countries now, and we would love to have the UK as a part of the Your Immunity Project. Let me just wind up with this. We're doing our own clinical trial. We do not trust Anthony Fauci. We do not trust NIH. We do not trust the FDA or the CDC. We do not trust the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19. We do not trust anything that is being reported to us. So therefore, we must do something for ourselves. And so the Your Immunity Project is a grassroots, science-based movement. And we're doing our own clinical trial. We're developing our own phone app, and we're enrolling people. As I said, we already have 30,000 people that are a part of the Your Immunity Project. But we need people in the UK to be a part of it. And we have an open challenge to Anthony Fauci. We have 500 people who are taking this. And we will compare them against 500 people who want to be vaccinated. And we'll do a comparative analysis at 28 days, and we'll see which group is doing the best.
So to Mr. Fauci,
DrAlim.com would be the contact. And you can also visit the Your Immunity Project on Facebook.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, Dr. Alim, we'll be in touch with you later today to place our first order so that we can distribute here, because it will probably be more cost effective for us to have a central base.
Yes.
And for us to be able to distribute from a central base rather than multiple. But we're not discouraging that. You know, those of you who are on the line who want to make an order today, we don't want you to wait, because I'm not of the mind of waiting. You know, handle your business. We're going to try to, Sister Sylvina, if we can get Dr. Alim's website put up on the screen so that all of those who are online can actually access his information and start the process of making orders today, so that we have something to treat what we may have or to prevent that which may be on its way to our door. But I want to hand over to Brother Trevor Hakeem, who's my co-host, and Sister Sylvina, who's going to go into the chat room to try to, if you have another 25 minutes, and Dr. Alim, yes, to answer some of the questions in the chat room. So over to yourself, Brother Trevor Hakeem. But before we do that, let us all show our thanks and appreciation for the wisdom that we have heard over the last hour and 30 minutes. You know, that was a whole series of episodes rolled up into one. And you have to sign a contract to come back, Dr. Alim.
Without a doubt.
Just of this particular discussion that we have had this morning. We're all very edified. It's so wonderful to see you. You know, the divine supreme being has given you such a divine mind and such a great mind for this hour, you know, to help us to get through. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Brother Hakeem.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Very inspiring. Brother Minister, been so inspiring. I'm thinking about maybe doing one of my power film breakdowns, you know, movie the agenda of the vaccination. That's what I'm thinking about doing. So, Brother Doctor, you've inspired me to even go back into one of my old film breakdowns and maybe present a presentation. So thank you.
But remember, in Europe, I am Dr. Alim's agent. So before you press the button on that, you need to come and sign the contract, and we negotiate the terms of the agreement.
Yes, sir. First of all, we'd like to thank all our attendees today, from Tulsa, Oklahoma, to Washington, D.C., to Australia, to South Africa. Thank you all for tuning in today. There's a few points and questions that's been brought up in the chat.
Don't forget Paris. Don't forget Denmark.
Oh, no. I'll be coming into a global roll call. It's okay. I just want to mention those few new spots regarding what we're doing today.
Oh, sounds like some bias here, brother. I want you to mention my family in Paris and in Denmark, and in
everywhere from to the Netherlands to
right.
Paris. We thank you all.
Okay.
Wow, I'm impressed. Got the whole family in on this.
Right.
Yes, sir. For those of you that want to interact with Dr. Abdul Alim Mohammed, we'll be taking some live questions in the next few minutes. So if you want to go live, if you go to your control panel, press your virtual hands up, and then we'll be able to recognize you and you'll be able to engage live. Some of the points that have come up via the chat room, one of those points is, oh yes, and also Sister Cheryl Phoenix, if you're still on the line, we will try and fit you in regarding a Black Child Agenda and an update. Sister Cheryl wants to give a short update regarding COVID and schools. So we'll try and fit you in, sister, if we can. But one of the points that's come up in the chat room is, how do we marry this information from the base of what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, that this is a divine pestilence?
Just before you answer that question, Dr. Alim, I also want to recognize those in Serbia, those in Jamaica, and those in Philadelphia. Very important that we recognize those who are on the line, because I've got here Sister Max in Jamaica. She didn't just say Jamaica too, she said Jamaica too. So big shout out to my Jamaican brethren and sisters. So Dr. Alim, in regards to the disease being, or the virus being a divine, what was the question?
Yes. How do you marry this information from the base of what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, that it is a divine pestilence?
Yes, I think he quoted a verse in the Quran on July the 4th, that this is a pestilence from heaven. And of course, there's other verses in the Quran that predict that there would be a plague sent upon the earth, described as widespread death. And then there's another verse that talks about a creature from the earth would be raised up to give a message to humanity who had ignored the messages that had been sent before. So back in 1991, faced with the challenge of HIV, in consultation with Minister Farrakhan at that time, he made a similar statement about HIV. And he said that it was part of the divine judgment. But he said that the same God that allowed such a plague to come into the world, that same God, out of his love and mercy for the righteous, has also placed an answer somewhere. And then he smiled and he said, but the thing about it is, brother, he says sometimes he places the answer in the strangest place. And so that's why he agreed to allow us to go to Kenya, because the answer to HIV was there in that East African country at the Kenyan Medical Research Institute, some major research going on a shoestring budget that was the answer to a global plague. And so we went to that strange place and we got that answer. And so now, to get to your question, to bring it up to date, 2021, you see, the same God that brings a pestilence out of heaven to destroy his enemies, just as God destroyed his enemies in the past. That same God, out of his love and mercy, he places an answer somewhere. And he places it, as the minister said, sometimes in the strangest place. And so you would expect the answer to come from NIH, perhaps, or the FDA, or the CDC, or from the National Health Service. Maybe you would expect the World Health Organization to come up with the answer. But no, the answer isn't coming from those high and lofty places. They're letting you down. But the answer is coming from a low place that nobody bothered to look at. What does it say on the label? You can't read it, but it says dietary supplement, bovine proteins. So as Brother Minister Hakeem mentioned, the largest surah in the Quran is called the cow. So part of the miracle of the Quran is the honorable mention given to the cow. And so when we look into what the cow is and what the cow does for humanity, we would have to disagree with the Europeans who say that the dog is man's best friend. We would have to say, no, we think the cow is man's best friend, because where would we be without the cow? And where will we be without the cow in the midst of this pandemic from a plague of viruses? Because the only known cure for a viral plague are the bovine proteins found in the Paximune. In other words, the interferon molecules. And so God has given us the answer, but it's up to us to use our genius, to use our skills, to use our education, to use our political and economic resources to band together in a united front in order to protect our immunity. So you see, our unity is our immunity. And our immunity is our right to life, guaranteed.
And I would add to that, because the minister on July the 4th, he also said that it's a time now for our virologists and our, chemists and biologists to come together in order to produce, an answer, an alternative answer to the vaccine. So he didn't say it was divine from heaven and something's going to fall out the sky to correct the problem. And sometimes we keep on, and our problem is, sometimes the minister will give us a divine command, and we look to him also to give us the divine, not just solution, but actually perform the act of providing the solution. So we're sitting here just waiting. He told us what's wrong. Now he will go out and fix it for each one of us individually. So we're here sitting, waiting for things to be fixed. Just like when the Savior left us, people are still sitting there waiting at their bed, waiting for the Savior to come back and save them.
Yes.
But missed it in the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad left us and said, I'll be back in 3 years. They're sitting here 40 years or later, waiting for the most honorable Elijah Muhammad to come back. We've had the minister among us, a master teacher, teaching us something about everything. We're still waiting for him to come and micromanage and teach us how to pay our bills. How do you actually cook this, brother minister? How do I resolve this? How do I do that? So we're still waiting. There was an old Jamaican song by Dennis Brown that goes, sitting here watching fools fight themselves. And that's how we can be. We can be educated and stupid simultaneously. Because if the most honorable Elijah Muhammad said to us, a message to the black man, get knowledge to benefit self. See, those words are just too simple for most of us. We haven't decoded the whole idea of getting information is to bring forth benefit to the recipient. And if the recipient's life does not improve, then you got knowledge for the wrong reason. You really did, because knowledge is designed to get your ass into gear and do something for yourself, okay? Not sit down and wait for the teacher to come and now perform the act of provision for us. No, and this is why we thank you, Dr. Alim, for having such a proven track record of serving our people on so many, a multiplicity of levels you have been in service. You know, so we thank you for giving us the result of what the minister called for, because we haven't, you know, been given a liquid or a tablet or anything from anybody else. If it has happened, I haven't received it. But what you have done and presented, you know, it's like during the time of Jesus, there were those who said, you know, that they were going to do certain things. And the one that said he wasn't going to do it, meaning he didn't say anything, you know, not that he said he wasn't going to, he just didn't say anything, was the one who actually came back with the solution. And the Jesus asked the question, which one done the will of God? The one who said that he would do it and didn't, or the one who said nothing and came up with the solution? So I'm here about solutions. You know, we're not here to just hear people just talk and re-explain what has already been explained. You know, because once you make something clear to me, I don't need nobody to break it down even further.
Exactly.
You understand what I mean? Because sometimes we get so caught up in the breakdown of the breakdown until it breaks us down. Do you understand what I mean? We're broken down in the breakdown and we just become break dancers. Do you understand what I mean? So it's important for us to go beyond breakdowns and build ourselves up after we've received knowledge. So I think that is a sufficient answer for the questioner, because sometimes we are spooky as hell. We're looking for a divine solution because the problem is divine. We're looking for woo, because in context, another context, the minister made it clear. It being a divine pestilence from heaven, it does not mean that the God of power would not use the mind of Satan to use his mind to produce that which comes from him. Just like he used Yaqub to make a man who has been an enemy against us for the last 6,000 years. Are you following me? But God used a man to produce an enemy for the original man. So God is always of the business of using the mind. And I remember the minister teaching us that, you know, there was a baby plane that God gave to the enemy so that the enemy can study the baby plane. And in him studying the technology on that, he's produced everything scientific and technological that we have, which would in turn prepare us for a scientific technological world. I don't mean to go off, but you know, I just wanted to share that. So thank you, Dr. Alim. So the next question, please, brother.
Yes, sir. So the person that asked regarding can COVID-19 be used to take away human rights laws? We covered that in part 2. So if you go to Facebook, Nation of Islam European headquarters, you'll be able to watch part 2 where one of our special guests is with us today, Sister Maureen, a brilliant human rights barrister, answered all of those questions alongside Cheryl Phoenix and a Black Child Agenda. So if you go to Facebook, Nation of Islam European headquarters page, you'll be able to watch part 2 where that answer gets covered. I'm going to go to some of our live audience members that would like to interact with you. So I'm gonna first go to Mustafa. You can unmute yourself, Mustafa, and you can engage with Dr. Alim.
you hear me?
Yes,
The audio is very poor.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you good now, sir. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hello?
Yes, do you want to put your question
your
forward?
question?
Oh, yes, sorry. So thank you, doctor, for intervention. And my question is a little bit about me and about the traditional treatment that we have in Senegal, because I came from Senegal. And I used to have 3 years ago pre-cancer of the colon. And I find the treatment that a professor in Senegal find for me was called the NEP-NEP. And with the bovine proteins, I want to ask you, what do you think about the traditional treatment and today's treatment? How both can be combined and trying to fight against those COVID-19 viruses or all that other disease that the human can create?
I couldn't quite hear exactly, but I think he was asking about combining traditional African treatments.
Exactly.
With,
what do you think about it?
Yeah, well, I think that is exactly where we are in history. You see, there is a great wealth of knowledge that our people retain for thousands of years in Africa, you know, that has not actually been disclosed to the Europeans. And so now that the European power and ability to dominate is being diminished, now I think it's time for us to call on our traditional healers to come together and let us build a new paradigm of healing that will not be based on toxic drugs that are derived from petroleum and other chemicals, but from the natural world, from natural foods and fruits and vegetables and the leaves and the herbs that grow in nature. We believe that every disease has a cure that God has placed somewhere in nature, and we believe that our people, many of whom are very close to nature, nature has revealed to our people many, many secrets. And so I think it's time for us to share that knowledge and build it up into the institutions that we need. And then we can tackle these problems like HIV and malaria and tuberculosis and all of the other things that plague us. But we'll never get the solution if we're, you know, the people who created the problem, they're not going to give us the solution. They're just going to increase the problem. So yes, you're right on it. We need to combine all the knowledge that's good, that works.
Thank you. Thank you for the question, Mustafa. So we've got a couple more people waiting, so thank you, sir. I'll have to go straight to them.
Brother Hakeem, if I could just say, we literally have 5 more minutes. So if Brother goes to you in the live audience, you need to be very expeditious and really get straight to your point, because we've only got 5 more minutes. So please unmute your phone if he recognizes you and get straight to your question.
I had one important question from the chat, Brother Minister. It was thank you. It was to ask Brother Alim, is the Paximune safe for children to use?
The answer is yes. The Paximune is safe for everybody to use.
Okay.
So the average adult dose, as I said, for prevention is 2 sprays, or if somebody has symptoms or is sick, then 4 sprays or even more. So now for children, you would just try to do a calculation. The average adult might weigh what we would say 150 pounds. So if a child is 75 pounds, then instead of 2 sprays, 1 spray. So you would just decrease the dose based on the age. Now, there is no toxicity. So there's no risk that you're going to give somebody an overdose and it's going to do harm. A related question is, what about pregnant women, nursing mothers? It's safe for everybody. It's safe for elderly. People also want to know, does it interact with other treatments? No, it does not. And then the other question people want to know, what are the side effects? there are two mild side effects. One is it tends to slightly increase appetite, and that's usually good for people who have lost weight. And it also slightly increases sexual drive, but there are no toxic side effects to worry about.
Okay, people, and if you don't mind an extra biscuit or two, or an extra hug, then what can I say? You knew it was coming. Bring on the cure. So go ahead.
Good things come in bundles.
Can I go into another audience member?
Sure.
Okay, Sister Wendy, you can unmute. You can interact with Dr. Alim. Sister Wendy.
Yes, can you hear me?
We can hear you fine. Sister. Go ahead.
Yes, my question is for Dr. Alim. This is Sister Wendy from DC. I wanted to know, are you familiar with the natural remedies that Madagascar has been using? And if so, can you touch on that? Because I know that they have something that they've already bottled and that they're providing to their people. Do you know anything about that? And if so, can you share it with us? Thank you.
Well, no, I don't know anything about that. So if anybody does, I would be glad to take a look at it. But no, I haven't heard about that.
Okay, I'm going to use my executive privilege here and go straight to my sister. I see her, Sister Vivian. You know, I can't see you and not fast track you. So please, Sister Vivian, the floor is yours. Take yourself off mute and the floor is yours.
Just on mute.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Yes.
Okay. Assalamualaikum. Thank you. We have cases of the Paximune and we'll be purchasing more and are using it and distributing it. I've been reading on GMO because I farm, I grow food. And so I've been trying to educate myself in regards to GMOs. And it struck me that this concept of this mRNA virus vaccine is comparable to making humans GMO, like GMO humans.
Exactly.
And can you deal with that and then talk about these mutations a little bit of this virus? Thank you.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Just as you have genetically modified foods, now with the insertion of messenger RNA into a human being, now you have a genetically modified human being, because if you're changing the genetic structure of an organism, well, it's not what it used to be. Okay, right. So you would have genetically modified humans. Now, I mentioned earlier that the vaccine causes the body to produce the S protein that's a part of the coronavirus. Well, there's only 4 proteins that make up the coronavirus. There's an S, an M, an N, and there's another protein. There's only 4. So by the time a person gets the 4th booster shot of this vaccine series, they will be producing all 4 proteins of the coronavirus, which means that their bodies will have literally become coronavirus producing factories. Now, just if you don't believe what I'm saying is true, this is actually how you produce a human zombie. And the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control in Atlanta, they actually have, and look this up, don't take my word for it. They have a zombie apocalypse emergency program ready to roll out, because that's exactly what they expect to see. They expect to see millions upon millions of ravenously hungry, rabid human zombies, just like they portrayed in the movies. It will be the movies coming to real life. This is a part of the overall depopulation agenda of Prince Philip. Final point, this is some research. Look this up. There's a company, there's a research company called Deagle, DEAGLE.com. What they're predicting is that the population in the United States will be reduced from 337 million down to 100 million by the year 2025. They also did a similar analysis for the UK. I don't remember the numbers offhand, but you will see that there's a projection of massive depopulation. And so we're just at the beginning of this campaign. And we have to fortify ourselves with our unity and with our nutrition. I don't know what kind of food you're growing, but that's essential. That's the most important thing I would say that anybody could do, is to start growing some clean food to nourish our people. Thank you.
Fantastic. I just wanted to share this slide real quickly, Dr. Alim, before you go, in regards to what I received from Newsweek, where it said 40% of LA's frontline workers declined the COVID vaccine as some county ICUs run out of beds. So if the actual frontline workers are declining the COVID vaccine, then what does that say, you know, about it? And again, between 20 and 40% of LA County frontline workers who were given priority access to the COVID-19. Did you modify my screen for Sylvia?
Yes, brother.
Oh, go back, please. Go back where I was.
You were there, it's the same page.
I think the actual number is probably higher than that.
Yeah, this has been around for over a week, and because it goes on to say up to 50% of healthcare staff have turned down the vaccine jab. I just also wanted to go into, as chief medical advisor to President Biden, Joe-elect Dr. Anthony Fauci's first priority will be expeditiously get people vaccinated against COVID-19, which he believes is the way we can end the outbreak. It further goes on to say that 70 to 85% level of vaccination equates to 230 million to 279 million of the total US population of 328 million. So he's looking to vaccinate in a short space of time, 70 to 85%, because the mindset is that the vaccine will not work unless 70 to 85% of the population is somewhat, you know, inoculated. And that translates to that number, and around that number you were stating, Dr. Alim. So they're planning on vaccinating 279 million Americans.
Exactly. So then the Deagle projection would mean that if those 200 million people receive the vaccine, that they're no longer going to be here when 2025 rolls around. So the death plot is clearly defined. Now now we don't have time, I know, but there's a definite reason why the sequence of the rollout of the vaccine is being rolled out as it is. It's the most efficient way to bring about the highest casualty rate. So we can touch on that maybe another time.
Yeah, and I look forward to it. So I think all what's left for us to do, Brother Hakeem and Sister Sylvina and those in the listening audience, is to thank our Dr. Abdul Alim Muhammad for a wonderful start to 2020.
Well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
We could have asked for a better start. You know, you've given us life this morning and have taught us how to extend our life and to strengthen our life and to really multiply our lives or continue to multiply our lives. So thank you. And I look forward to discussing with you, you know, a return back to our community question time show in the very near future. And we'll also be contacting you later to determine how we can start receiving our treatments that you have here in the United Kingdom, and we can distribute it throughout Europe. But as I said, those of you on the line, please don't wait for us. If you're eager and ready to go, you know, please reach out to Dr. Alim. We have everybody's contact information. We will send you. And if you want to say it, Dr. Alim, so that everybody can, because Sylvina, you were having problems in bringing up the slide you were saying of the website.
Yes, a few of us have tried. We can't go onto your site. Maybe it's so busy, Dr. Alim.
I don't know, but it's real simple to remember. It's dralim.com, and you just spell the word doctor all the way out, and it should come up. But maybe we do have a lot of traffic. I don't know.
Right.
But I want to thank you once again for the opportunity to speak to you and your audience, and look forward to meeting with you again. Now we have a conference call every Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern time, the Your Immunity Project conference call. So just go to our Facebook page and you'll get all the information about how to join our weekly conference call. Oh, I see it there. Yeah, there you go. That's the Facebook page, yes.
Fantastic. So again, Dr. Alim, thank you.
You're welcome.
Warm love and regards from the European region and from around the world. We love you, we thank you. Keep on doing the good work that you're doing, and whatever we can do to support you, you know you have our support before you even ask. So thank you, and I look forward to having you on this platform in the very, very near future. So everybody, once again, let's give our special guest a big, massive, well-deserved round of applause. And I'm going to turn over to you, Brother Trevor Hakeem and Sister Sylvina.
I hear my mother stirring, so I'm going to sign off.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Tani. Thank you so much. Walaikum salam.
Brother Minister, you know, again, I've been getting so many messages coming through for another. We're going to be doing more episodes of this than what there's episodes of Star Wars, you know, brother. Seriously. People want the Doctor to come back, so we would definitely have to talk about doing a part 4 at some point. But
yeah, absolutely. Let's discuss it over the next couple of days, and we'll be in touch with everybody, you know, because time is limited. So it doesn't make sense us taking breaks. It's better we keep the machine moving forward, because this is church, this is mosque, this is synagogue, this is the people's station. And that's what we're here for, is to offer the information that is needed, you know, to strengthen our community and offer a forum wherein you can ask questions, and hopefully we can ask them on your behalf, you know, to make sure that we're fully strengthened and emboldened in order to have the best chances of surviving through 2021. Because if we were not bold in 2020 and, you know, change very expeditiously the way how we do things, we would not be here on this forum today speaking to the world. So let us continue to utilize these platforms and these services whilst we still can, because there's probably coming a time where we'll be knocked off of every platform, brother.
Which they
let's gather as much information as we can, and not just gather it, but actually put it to work, you know, utilize it, document it, and inculcate it, so that in a time of darkness where we can't communicate like this, we would have internalized, not just in our memory banks, but we would have internalized in the way how we live our lives, you know, survival mechanisms that we can share with each one who we come into contact with.
So, sir, can I just give a quick roll call of thank yous for the supporters?
Please do.
Community question time. So we'd like to thank Brother Charles of the Taking Initiative Party, who's with us today supporting. Also, Brother Mark Simpson and Sister Charmaine Simpson of Black History Studies. Thank you for also helping to post around today's event. Sister Maureen, our human rights barrister of Family Matters UK. Thank you so much, sister. Sister Juliet of the Liberal Democratic Party. She's doing tremendous work in the Lib Dems regarding racial equality for our people, and doing tremendous work within Africa regarding charity work. Also, we'd like to thank Sister Cheryl Phoenix of Black Child Agenda. Thank you so much, sister. Sorry we couldn't get to you, but for part 4, we'll definitely squeeze you in. Global African Congress, Brother Glenroy, Brother Abu Akil, thank you so much for your support. Flames Radio, DJ Wonder, AK Brother Wayne Shaheed, thank you so much. Galaxy Radio, Empress Anoa, Brother Abu and Brother Tete, thank you so much for your support, Galaxy Radio. And last but by no means least, Brother Terry and Brother Richie of Black Eyes TV, thank you for promoting and streaming today's event. Thank you so much. And of course, I'll be totally remiss in my duty if I didn't thank all of you, the listening and watching audience from all over the world. Please give yourself a great CQT Community Question Time round of applause for your participation today, because you could be doing anything else. And the fact that you've taken the time to register and sign on and be with us today, thank you so, so much. Thank you.
I see my brother Ruben from Australia. So welcome, Brother Ruben, all the way from down under. So just before we sign off, we want to just advertise to you the fact that our spiritual injection will resume this week, Thursday, because after discussing the various challenges and the attacks on us and our community, we want to discuss Exodus, the benefits of buying property together, how we can now start to really take flight from some of these places that do not have our best interest at heart. And we're going to discuss why, rather than continue to fight certain battles, it's better to make alternative moves and do something different in the best interest of yourself and the best interest of future generations that will come from our loins or members of our family. So we want to look at how we can set up housing co-ops and how we can buy land collectively and buy parcels of property collectively and start to now take responsibility for growing our own food and for ensuring that we have the right medication, because this whole survival process is a process and it is a system that affects every aspect of our lives. So now we want to look at how we can now start buying property collectively. And that program will start this week, Thursday at 7 p.m. on this very same platform, Zoom. So I look forward to seeing you with special guests who are extremely knowledgeable in the fields that we will be discussing. So I love you and look forward to seeing you on Thursday. And thank God for every one of you who have supported us. And we will in tune make sure that we give you the very best, not just that we have, but the best that we can find on the planet. 57,255,000 square miles. We're sourcing the best minds to ensure you have the best quality information. With that said, all what's left for me to do is bid you a wonderful Sunday, a blessed Sunday, and a wonderful week until I see you, God willing, on Thursday. So go to Eventbrite, book your ticket, and I look forward to seeing you on Zoom on Thursday. May God bless you. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For coming in.
See you.
Thank you.
Kevin, we see you.
Welcome, salam.
Assalamu alaikum, Minister.
Greetings, people. If you'd like to join us on the panel to say what you want to talk about and all the kind of information that you have received, please join us on this panel. We have a little bit of a little window of 30 minutes where if you want to discuss and let's talk about what we've listened to before we close out. Brother Rich, are you around?
I'm here, brother. I'm here. I was enjoying that talk. Big up to everybody who tuned in, hit the like button. Big up to the Facebook people that's listening in. You know, give thanks to the Nation of Islam for putting these conversations together. You know, definitely there was loads of points in there that whether or not you're with Nation of Islam, I think that was constructive. and as I said, thought-provoking. So yeah, give thanks for that. And again, as Terry said, links in the chat. So if you want to come up, say your piece, if you've got an opinion, if you want to ask a question or, you know, query something, please jump on, have a chat with us. It's been a hot minute. I'm happy that Black Eyes TV's back for the new year. So yeah, please, if you feel free, jump on now, come say your piece, have a conversation with us.
Yeah. No. What do you feel that you kind of heard or gained, or what do you feel that you may dispute around the situation of the conversation of what the doctor has explained to us?
Me personally, I mean, obviously, you know, there were slight bits at the end of the conversation where they're talking, you know, in relation to God and you know, like,
but then in explaining that, right? And then I always say this is why I don't critique people if they follow a religion or a format, but then you're able to understand it by replacing the God concept for something else, in the fact that if you could say the devil or these people or whatsoever, how you perceive what they kind of made agenda, but we get the idea of what is actually going on in the forms of certain things. But as I said, as a people, you're going to have a mixture of all sorts, even to the forms of conspiracies and things like that. But we still get to understand that it's a war out here at the end of the day, and we have to look at the best way of how we can maintain or look after ourselves as well as the community. Because
sorry, go on. Finish your point.
Because I was going to say is, like, you know, when you had the grandma's recipes and the foods that we eat. Because I saw a video, right? And when you actually think about it, like the foods we're eating, the work we're doing, we're working more harder. We're doing certain things. We're being more laid back. We're spending more. We're creating more stress. All these things, these factors of what's happening over the years, is what, when you actually ask yourself, is this what we're eating? Is it actually real?
No, listen, and I think let's deal with what I agree with, and what you're saying is right, exam. That's what they highlighted. The history of our people has always been that we have all the cures provided for us for any ailment in the food and our environment. That's a fact. So again, when he's talking about when they initially tackled the problem of how shall we get back to better health and whatever, as he said, they went back to Africa, where straight away the treatment is there for major illness that was not being exploited, not being looked at properly. And again, it's specifically there to benefit our people. So little things like that, and highlighting the need for us, whether or not you believe in God, to be self-reliant on trying to find the answers within your own culture, because again, our history of our people is immense. We're the first. We've done these things for a long time. So understanding that and having faith in that, and knowing that even with your education, the pathway is still going to lead you back to those original places, is more than immense when it comes to, you know, importance of knowing this and having a trust in our own science that we initiated. Because again, we like to use white people as the variant or the variation.
Or just use it as a form of European, you know, because then we kind of understand the stances of where we stand. And as I said, like, when you see things, and you analyze from, let's use it as a form of a 10 years background, in that when we talk about new technology, it doesn't have to be electricals or technology of computers, but everything has moved up into a form of tech. So like, even when you're talking about the GMOs of the food, and then they move to the advance of GMO on mosquitoes, what will be next? It will be the human beings trying to evolve or change their DNA, or trying to play that characteristic of God.
Well, again, they're trying to supplant, as the brother talked about, the transhumanism, where again it's about augmenting your reality. Yeah, he mentioned the Hunger Games and that, and again, if you watch the movie, what you're seeing is sets of people living very poor and hand to mouth with resources given, and wherever their work is that they do, that goes to the main city. But when you're seeing them in the games itself, you're dealing with an augmented reality, meaning that nothing is real, from the animals, the trees, the environment, the sky, everything is controlled. So that's where, again, the brother's talking about, this is what the ultimate plan looks like, where they want to control the bullets and the bandages, meaning that in this case, talking about the coronavirus and whatever, they already know what they're giving people, whatever it is, whatever name you want to give it, whatever theory you're coming with. Again, they understand what they're doing and what they're giving you. So again, in turn, they know what they're giving you when they're saying they're giving you a vaccine. Whether or not it's to benefit you or not, again, this is another reason why these conversations are needed, because we have to calmly analyze history and our involvement with white people and Europeans and the powers that be, and how they've treated us medically, and what they've done in the past when they've used the words, "we're vaccinating you." And again, even the way the brother showed the origin of the word, which again comes from us, which again comes from them watching us doing a practice based in a natural environment, and then they've gone away and then they've worked on it and again patterned something that like it's come from them. But again, the origins are always from us, which is important to know, because it creates a more stable conversation rather than us just believing that whatever they're coming with is some completely different, idea system to anything that we've ever had. No, we've always explored these ideas of health, but it's just being done in a completely different way.
Yeah, like as I was saying before, in the fact of one thing that we've kind of lost, and it comes to the situation of self-reliance. We don't rely on ourselves. We allow the system to able to be relied on, or it's like a cushion for us, in the fact that everything that we ask or demand for is always coming from that system. So when they put that vaccine there, they put it in a way where you rely on it, and the system pressures you to able to picking up that vaccine. So in that self-reliance, where our grandmothers and our grandparents were showing us, you'd have your own farms, but I know it's in this day and age when you're living in a city, you can't really have a farm. But then you have to look at yourself and say, you know what, these are the things and the protocols that a city will give you, in the fact that you will end up rather going to a supermarket than you actually going to a farm.
I see a comment here from Snuggle.
Okay.
Where she was talking about why did the establishment give you answers that you already have. Well, and again, this is all symptomatic of what we're saying, of re-understanding your own history. Because whenever, again, we say history, we always think about buildings and kingdoms. But again, there's a medical history in Africa. And that's what we're talking about considering and understanding and looking into.
And that's, as I said before, it's that how can you be alive if you have no mother? And this is where we can't keep on saying about the now if we don't look at the past, on how these people were in the past and what they were doing in the past to what they are doing right now. So, it makes sense in that factors of that we sometimes able to learn from that past and take what is needed and able to advance into that future by using what we know in the now.
Yeah. And again, like another question with that, you know, people are saying, well, so what, they're smart enough, white people, the government, Europeans, whatever the powers that be, are smart enough to manipulate people, the masses, to not knowing. And again, this isn't an overnight situation. This is a slow burn situation where over time you've created a situation in the Western society across the diaspora where people's lifestyles and your consumerism in the West has taken you to a place now where we're at this point where they're offering vaccines, they're talking about this illness that little of us know much about, and what we do know based on what the government's saying and what their measures are don't make sense. But now we're into a zone where I was talking to a brother earlier in the chat, and I was asking him why he would take the vaccine, because he was saying, I'll probably end up taking it. And he stated reasons of job and lifestyle type situations. And this is a problem where we're kind of weighing up what we have and what we want to do against our long-term health. And again, there's enough cases now where medicines have been administered to the masses where whether or not it licks you down in the moment, it's a slow burn thing where 10, 20 years later, now all the problems start showing themselves. Now the next diseases come. Even the fact of how me and Terry came together for Black Eyes TV was at an event that we was covering called Urban Kryptonite. It's a documentary talking about diseases that Black people suffer from now that they never suffered from before, and the reasons for that: diet, environment, the stresses, the illusionary stresses that Terry was talking about. All of these things lend weight to why now we're confronted with this situation where so many of the facts that they're putting out there, whether the death rates, whether how many strains there are, the vaccine, how you get tested, don't match up. But again, based on this lifestyle that we're used to and this investment that we supposedly have in this environment and this society that we're in, we're giving away the free thinking rights that we have to just consider simple scenarios, because we can all get deep and, as they say, go into the conspiracies and the side angles of what they're going to do. But again, we could just keep it light and breezy in this subject, and there's so many things that just don't add up and need questioning. And if we don't take the time to do that, or if we're weighing up questioning our health against, oh, well, I like this job, I just like to live here, or, my kids have to go to that school, that's a problem to me. That's a very short-term way of thinking. And again, I'm not trying to demonize anyone. What your end decision is, your end decision is. But at least consider all the factors. You can't tell me you're making a big life-changing decision about your possible health based on just whether or not you want to keep a job. That's crazy. That in itself should spark alarm bells that you're in an economic slavery trap where they can do things like that.
Yeah, and that's why I was talking about the self-reliance, because at the end of the day, when we look at a whole heap of things that we have to rely on, we have to rely on so much things that the system provides for us that we're not even sufficient for ourselves, So, and I get on that kind of note, but we need to start to unify and get together, because it's about our children and our children's children. This is all like 5-10 generations deep. And if we're patient enough, even though might not be in our lifetime, but we need to set some form of foundation for these children. Because if we don't do foundation for these children, they're going to get the worst end of the stick of it. So it's for us to come as a collective, regardless of who you are, where you come from, but is able to unify for the common denominator to able to move forward. And that's where we come to today, where we talk about the Black family first, and we do the thing for Manhood Academy, for our boys and our girls, and able to create different genres for our people as much as possible. And this is where Black Eyes TV is always asking for people that want to have discussions or want to have panels or want to promote whatever they do, or to even have adverts for their services or products. We are here because this is the people station for the people, by the people.
That's all. Black family first. That's the theme. So if you're anything opposed to that, black family first, don't bother come over here, yeah? Because again, that's what we're about. When man's talking about generational thought patterns and people want to say about nation building, that's not done in a day. That's done over time. That's done generationally. And again, tying it back to the vaccines, when you look at all the misdemeanors and foolishness that has been done to our people, what's the most common thing that they tend to do through these vaccines? Sterilization. Why? Because they already know that, again, it's one thing to slow you down today, but it's even it's an even better prospect to know that you're not even going to grow past next week, because I've already taken care of that. And until we, again, start to value our legacy, start to think, as Terry said, 5 generations along, they're going to keep having you up. Yeah, they're going to keep having you up, because anytime we put something good in place, it's always future generations that are needed to carry on those institutes, to carry on those schools of thought, to carry on being educated, to carry on becoming doctors and all the positions that we need to, again, build a nation. So if we're taking things, or if we're considering doing something that directly in history has shown has an impact on that very same generational passing on of wealth, as in knowledge, money, you know, all of it, then isn't that worth a conversation? Isn't that worth a pump the brakes slightly and let's just talk about this before we rush into something? And again, it can't be just weighed up on the job you're doing today, yeah, or the situation you're in today. What if we are not?
We have a brother in the house. Everything is everything.
Respect, greetings, respect, sir.
Big up yourself, brother.
Respect to
what's the show?
Both of the man them on the panel. Highly respect this platform.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you nice and
clear. Hello?
Yeah, we can hear
you, brother.
I can't hear anybody. Can you hear me?
Come back out. Hey, come back out and come back in.
Oh, I hear you now. I hear you now. Can you hear me? Check.
Yeah, we can hear you, brother.
Let me ask the brother my thing. Is it that you don't believe vaccines work, or you just don't trust this vaccine? What's the deal?
You know, I'll put it in my format, right? Is that whether the vaccine's real or not, we're doomed if we don't, and we're doomed if we do. In the fact that if we go into forms of history, and if they have a population scenario, then how are we going to able to deal with something, or how can we even trust these people in the fact of what they've done to us in the first place? And if I look at it in the perspective of, if I'm a doctor and I'm a European white doctor, I'm doing the vaccine for myself. Have we as black people got the same DNA?
Yes, we do. In a sense, we do. We are all humans. As far as I understand the science, root boy, and I'm just in my capacity now, giving this understanding. We are human beings, all of us. Besides a few variants because of mutation, because of migration, we are all. Don't let this race thing fool you. We are all human. We are Homo sapiens sapien. The same reason why we can breed with each other, why a black man can breed with a white woman and bring 4 children, is because we're the same thing. If we weren't the same thing, there would be no breeding going on amongst us. So yes, under the hood, we're pretty much the same thing. Now, there are certain things that will in our body based on the evolution, and we might be allergic to certain things. And just by nature we might be allergic to. But my thing is the confusion when I hear this argument, rude boy, is the conflation between whether vaccines itself work, or is it that they don't trust this white man vaccine? Because the argument if vaccines work has been proven already by African people. Remember, you know the story of Onesimus Root Boy. Africans have been doing inoculation for eons.
Yeah.
All you're doing is putting a variant of the virus in your system so your immune system can know where to fight when it hits your body. That's all inoculation is. Now, whether this particular virus under this administration, which is the Trump administration, should be trusted, I will give you leeway to argue that. But even there, you see what I say, my brother, even there is too much black people involved in the process, too much eyes on this thing, too much pressure is on for them to hide any type of agenda and take out black people or any specific group of people, because them have a whole saying, dig a hole for somebody you might as well dig too. Right now, Rude Boy, them wouldn't know who them attack out if them should be trying that with this vaccine. Because this vaccine will be going all over the place. It's not specific for certain people. You see what I say? So unless them are look to take out half the world population, period, and not just black people, it can't be just directed at us. And me no want to see my people miss out on something that could save a whole heap away. And because, yes, we had the history of being screwed over, we know you are due diligence and look into it, because that's how we are going to know if it's true or not. We have to go use with sense and look into it and say, is this sound? Is this sound?
Okay.
You see me as a rude boy?
Yeah, so this is what I will say in the notes of that. As I said to you before, whether that vaccine is good for us or not, it's the people behind the situation. Do you understand? Because when we was doing the vaccines and we was putting these things under our skin, we was doing it on a natural basis. Now that everything has become business and everything is, we want things now. Okay, so we may take this vaccine and it may sort out the virus or itself, but we want to know that we can verify every attribute, what's going into that vaccine, so that we know that we are secure, not to put it onto one side and just allow them to just do it for us when we can able to share, like it's like a medicine. You know, if we say CMOS, we can share. I can say, yeah, brother, here's some CMOS. You do what you got to do. But you see, with this vaccine, it's all about you have to go to their doctors, and it's their doctors that have to give it to you.
Let me say
that is not how me understand. Respectfully, that is not how me understand the process. Because you see, the community. Me have a talk with a brethren of mine yesterday. Respected brethren of mine, man. And the man start throw around this natural talk. Yes, when the process happened of inoculation in Africa, they got a thorn, from my understanding, put it in the mucous membrane of the cow and inoculate themselves. You can't put that in the mucous membrane of a microscopic bacteria. They're gonna have to do something different to get the thing from the bacteria that they did in Africa from the cow. And that's why I'm telling you the process is the way the process is. I'm saying there's too much eyes, ears, and all type of scrutiny on this for them to be specifically trying to target no one group. You see, Master Rude Boy, I know that the term natural in our community has been taken.
Hold up, brother.
It is used in a way. Yes, my brother. Respect.
Hold up, brother. Look, let's again. I hear where you're coming from. Yeah. So let's just start to look at, because the same elder that was on earlier, he mentioned the same thing about the inoculation being in Africa. He cited the same example.
Yes.
But
I didn't hear it.
Yeah, no. So he that's what I'm saying. You're not talking madness. You're making sense on some of the points. But let's just deal with the parameters that the same government or powers that be here in the diaspora have set for themselves when it comes to the passing of a drug to the population. Because remember, there's parameters, there's tests, there's ways and means or things you have to do in order to obviously prove something out that is safe and you know what you're doing in it, right?
Yes, yes.
And again, just on that, there's already a discrepancy. So if we just take out all of the back conversation, we just look at the powers that be, and we believe everything they're saying, we believe the numbers that they're saying of how many people dead from COVID. We're believing you're saying that, you know where it is, and you've isolated strain, and you know so much that you're now isolating other strains. We're believing that you know all of this back information. So now, when it comes to the producing of a vaccine, a cure, there's a process that you have to go through to indeed tell people this is a cure, this is a vaccine, this is going to work, right?
Yes.
That hasn't been met. That burden of proof hasn't been met. So that's already that's a fact. It hasn't been met. That's not up for dispute. That is a fact. That's one of the major reasons why now, as they were showing earlier, you've got a whole load now of healthcare workers who are refusing to take it because they themselves, who are in the profession of administering drugs and looking after people and dealing with side effects and dealing with allergic reactions and all of this kind of thing, they themselves are saying, you know what? I don't like the way this thing's been produced. I don't know what's in it. Some of the stuff I do know what's in it doesn't make sense to be in it because, again, we've moved away from the natural inoculation situation and we're into synthesizing and adding on ingredients that, again, you're not finding in the natural world. This is where the side effects and the toxicities come into it. This is how that happens. So straight away, there's already a problem besides that. Now, you mentioned if they wanted to kill just black people or whether they're targeting all sorts of people. Again, the medical history of any time they offer vaccinations to black people, let's deal with that first, has not been good. And it's resulted in deaths, sterilization. Yeah, right.
I am indefensible on that one, my brother. That is a historical fact.
All right.
But if I may push back on the let's understand a few things. The RNA, and I'm using my capacity and understanding, Somebody can come on and show me the folly of my ways and show me how I got it wrong. But I try to be based in the factual science of the thing. And from what I understand, yes, you see, right now, road boy, you drive and you hold on the steering wheel and you're comfortable. But if they invent a car tomorrow where you can't hold the steering wheel, you're not going to drive it. You could have been a mechanic, you're not going to drive it because you're just not comfortable with it. Many nurses not take the vaccine because it's just them religious. A whole heap of nurses me working at the nursing field in a road boy. Enough of them religious, more of them religious and more pseudo than you would even know. Then just stick up nursing because of them just like it. But them really not scientific minded. A whole heap of nurses you have were more religious than scientific minded. And it would seem a contradiction, but it is not. Them just follow what they're being told. A lot of them do. So here what may I say? The thing is, this RNA string is new. This RNA, not string, this RNA DNA, this RNA thing, what am I use to make the virus, not the virus, pardon me, to make the vaccine, road boy. It's fairly new. And yes, you and I are not even our grandparents ever live in our world where them have a disease, where them have a vaccine for it. Well, AIDS, other than AIDS. And even AIDS right now is under control because you can take a pill where AIDS can't even show up in your system. You are really, Amon Rasquad Mir Satan. You are actually first time in a generation living in a world where there's no vaccine. It's like we're back in a time, road boy, where a virus, which is a member of the planet. The virus they long before humans in a road, boy. The virus that try to survive and you see me now, and I try move forward just like we. So this virus now is new, a novel virus what we never deal with before. And what you do when you deal with something well wicked and I go take out whole heap of people fast? You change protocol. You might have to change how you do things normally. I agree that the time that it takes to do this virus was suspiciously fast. But the bottom line is, if it didn't work, it wouldn't work. You see me I say? The fact that you take, if you take 10 years to make a car, or 2 days to make a car, the bottom line is, if you start up the car, the both of them should work, right?
Hold up, brother. Let's look again. Let's keep it sensible. The thing is supposed to move like a flu virus, yeah.
You mean the vaccine?
Yeah, no. The COVID operates like the flu, yeah.
No, it don't. No. In some ways it do. In some ways it don't.
Hold up, brother. Yeah, in the sense that it changes. It's going to change. It's going to mutate naturally all the time. So straight away, what you need to come to the realization is, if they're coming with some sort of, again, injection or vaccine for you, just like how the flu vaccine, you have to go every year to keep getting this jab, that's what they're going to have to do with this thing, because it keeps changing every time.
Yes, I agree.
That's why we've gone from them telling you, oh yeah, you're gonna have to get 1 shot, to now you gotta get 2 shots.
Because we're learning we're learning it. Unlike the flu, we pretty much understand how the flu operates, but we don't know how COVID operates. We pretty much getting the records of COVID right now as we deal with it. Bro, we are pretty much in a war with an enemy we've never dealt with before.
But that's why you're making the case to not be a human guinea pig. This is what I'm saying.
Well, you know,
both of you, but 1 second. Let's just look at it in its perspective. Yeah, we know that this COVID is real, right? This COVID is going to it's going to give you new strands over the years. We know that if we take this vaccine, it's going to be a vaccine that we're going to be taking every year, regardless. Now, just look at that in its format. It's going to become a form of business for pharmaceuticals, regardless. Yeah.
I mean, the debate is already out. Why they don't just let the thing just give up the patents for it so it can spread? The debate is there. That debate is separate. I agree with you guys. There shouldn't be no patent for COVID. They should just let the thing so everybody can get the science.
Just saying something else right there. Why is there a patent? Someone else asked that question like earlier.
It's just how it's how the system works. The get government assistance, right? It's just like your computer. You know, your computer got government assistance with the people at NASA, but no, they charge you for the computer.
Everything. But look at it like this. In every form of disease or virus, most of these pharmaceuticals have them in cold storages. There is viruses that you will never get to know about that is being kept behind in the fact that they keep this to investigate it, so that if there's an outbreak of any of these things, they can find a quick solution for it, right?
I agree with you. And some cases that was the case with Ebola. That was the case with Ebola.
Yeah.
But novel COVID-19, I don't think that's the case, remember, brother. Not with COVID.
Something that is
hold on 1 minute.
You can only patent something that you've created. So by default, you saying that they created something and they've got a patent for it, doesn't that already raise alarm bells in your head?
No, they don't have the patent for the COVID. They're going to have the patent for whatever result. That's because from what I heard, the different companies that are making the vaccines are not sharing information. That's why you have different vaccines coming out. One that might be kept under hot ice, that one might not need ice, because different companies are making the vaccine and they're taking different routes to come to the same conclusion, in my humble opinion. So, I mean, it's pretty much, it's capitalism affecting a pandemic, pretty much. So capitalism is always there. Yes, I agree.
So that's what I'm trying to explain. And I'm trying to finish, right? In the fact that we know that these things are in many different types of storage. Now, the original COVID has so per se come from China. Now they say a new strain come from South Africa. How does that work?
No, you have to say Britain first, bad man. Say Britain first. Because that one in South Africa got there from Britain. Trust me, them Europeans in Britain brought it to South Africa.
Yeah, but you know that. Strain in Nigeria now. There's a new strain in Nigeria. So there's
Richie, 1 second. No, 1 second. Just calm this thing down a bit. I just wanted to, because I'm trying to show that for things to come from different directions, doesn't it sound like they've had this thing in storage or they've had this COVID somewhere before?
No, because this is how mutations happen. It's the same way. It's the same, like I said earlier before, you have one human being, and through migration, that human being change based on the environment. Now you take COVID out of Yunnan, China, and it went to Italy, the variant gonna change. Then it went to Britain, it's gonna change. It go to South Africa, it's gonna change. It has to adapt to its environment. Because the COVID is a living organism too, and it has to adapt to its environment and its host. So that's all the COVID is doing. Every time it adapts.
I hear you coming from the mutation, and I get what you're saying. But what I'm trying to explain to you is that most of these things that we're talking about, which they say they've got the pattern for, which means that it's been man-made in its format. So something has been released from where they've had it originally. Regardless if it came from Great Britain or it came from United States or it came from what other country, this thing was man-made. So then something or somewhere where we cannot explain right now how it's leaked or how it's come out. We can't understand. We will never understand that. But
well, actually, there is a very credible way they said it came about. They said it came about from animal to human contact.
Yeah, hold up. That's been discredited from the beginning. That whole story of them saying man ate something, the armadillo-looking lizard creature, that's all been thrown out. The U.S. government has thrown that out. That?
Which U.S. government? The Trump U.S. government?
The same people.
Which U.S. government? The Trump one?
Hold up. U.S. government, China, UK. Nobody's adhering to that original story that came out.
No, you can't say China is not, because China knows that's what happened. The world, you see, China and the World Health Organization know that's how it happened. Now, the Trump White House that's wanting to blame China for everything is going to play that little politics game. Britain, because they want a trade deal. Britain, because they want a trade deal, is going to do anything Massa America say. So you can't really listen to these people as credible right now.
They're talking about what Terry was telling you, which is about all of these other factors, capitalism, this politics, getting involved, all of this back and forth. Why, again, you sitting there and saying, yeah, let's just take the thing, man. Everything's fine.
No. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying because I'm not saying that. I would be normally quicker to take this vaccine if it wasn't under the Trump administration. I was a little hesitant, but then when I did my own little personal research for me and my family, and I realized that Trump is not making this vaccine. Credible scientists who have their reputations on the line, and it is being observed and under the scrutiny of governments worldwide and their scientists, because it's the same objective. It's not just Trump. So knowing this,
came. Hold up, Trump just came. Earlier on, you agreed quite quickly when I said, let's look at the history of vaccines with black people, and how they dopey us and sterilize us and all these things there. Trump weren't around then. Those are all under different administrations.
True, my brother. But black people in science, wasn't around then either. Black people in science wasn't around then either.
Both of you. 1 second. Just put it on a hold. let's just look at in forms of history, because I like to clear certain things out. In forms of any form of government or any forms of someone, of any form of scientists, inventors, they have to get funded or commissioned. Now, if a scientist brings out something, their laboratory, as we know, you can see it in films or whatsoever, someone has to fund that organization. Now, the person that's going to fund that organization, wouldn't they have a form of an agenda?
Yes. And based on the agenda.
We're not going to go into the conspiracy of things, but we're going to go.
No, but the agenda, you could say, is to get rid of the virus. That is the agenda. If you have another agenda that you think might be being applied, I mean,
hold on. We need to get rid of the virus, but the person that's putting the money in, he wants to get rid of the virus. Isn't that a good big business for him?
No, because in this case and in other cases, the government, which is funded by me and you, put the money in, but then the private sector, which is private, keep all the profits. We don't get it back because the vaccine is not free. You see, me and you as taxpayers gave the government money, and they gave these private companies money. And then the government gets ripped off, and this is why people are upset. If the government gave the money, then the virus should be free.
Do you think your taxes pays off a lot of the stuff that the government do?
That's how the government runs, my brother.
Do you think that? Or do you think that most of the corporate companies are the ones funding the government to push in the direction?
Actually, corporate companies don't pay enough taxes. Corporate companies, their whole agenda is to pay the least tax possible.
Have you
they're
heard
tax dodgers?
They're tax dodgers to the public. But to do the side note, do you feel that they don't give handouts?
Private companies?
How does a politician receive his money for his campaigns?
Yeah, but the money they normally get, never ever. If you look at what a politician might get for a little for campaign money, it's far. I mean, what the private company gets back in return far outweighs that, my brother. You can give a politician $1 million to support his.
Hold on. I just wanted to get this clear, because in the forms of, I'll give you Nigeria as an example. Yeah, Siemens needed to get into Nigeria. And they needed
Nigerian politics now, I might have to adjust my mind, because Nigerian politics is not like American politics now. So as a Jamaican now, I'm going to have to think Jamaican in way I think of Nigeria. And in Nigeria, money talks and bullshit walks.
Yeah, but everything of everything. But what I'm trying to explain to you, let me just explain it to you, right? I'm just using Nigeria as an example. Nigeria, Siemens needs to get into the country. They got one guy that was the deputy head of to the president. Yeah, they gave him 10 million for them to come into Nigeria. Now, if I go into England, the same format is that they will put in 10 million into a man's charity. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
And they will charity. So what are they receiving to put 10 million into that person's charity?
You're talking about access now. Okay. All right.
Because these are the influencers. We've got to look at the influencers.
Yes. And you know what, Mr. Riggs, I'm not going to sit here and argue and say it's not happening. You see what I'm saying? But there's... Yes, my brother.
Brother, listen. One, you're separating business from government, and again, we're living in a capitalist society. So
I don't know if you can separate them. I don't even know if you can separate them.
Right? No. But that's my point. That they can't be separated. So when you're saying the businesses ain't paying tax and they're ripping off the government, there's no such thing, because you're talking about one cohesive entity. And again, when you're looking at politics, when you're looking at politics, and you're looking at who's going in to office and who's campaigning, they're getting campaign contributions from different industries. And it just so happens that Big Pharma, the drug companies, are one of the biggest contributors. So it stands to reason, reason then why they can get away with doing things to people. Like, as we said, let's take this Pfizer company that was given the job first to do the vaccinations. They've got a long list of cases of, again, sterilizing, killing, and doing all sorts, and giving medicines that, again, are experimental to people and peoples, and then sitting back and waiting. That's facts. But again, they're still in business, and they've been given this big governmental contract. Why would a company like that be given the contract? It's because every time there's a party campaigning, whether they're left or right, these companies donate money to those campaigns. So when laws are bringing and when there's jobs that need to be filled, they get the first call, and they get to do the job how they see fit without any interference. They even get laws changed, i.e., when we're looking at the vaccination law that was changed, where they're saying, yeah, you can't prosecute any company that's giving you the vaccination. Where do you think that's coming from? That's coming from the biggest.
I think you're grossly oversimplifying the process, my brother, because you have to, you see, when we say governments, we have to know that not all governments are equal. And when we say companies, we know not all companies are equal. And when we understand how governments work with companies, you know, it depends on which company. In some countries, the companies are stronger than the government. In some, even in America, the companies are stronger than the government, it seems like. But at the same time, there could be a stronger, what you call this, public sector that holds its government accountable. Now, in America and Britain, you have stronger public sectors that will hold its government accountable somewhat. But in like Nigeria and other parts of the world, Jamaica, there's not much civil people who can hold the government accountable, so the government can run roughshod. So it is not as simple as we're making it. You see what I'm saying?
I know, yeah, and I get what you're saying, right? But what I'm saying is, so then why doesn't the pharmaceuticals give the vaccine? Because it's a pandemic and people are dying. Hold on, is he there?
I don't know, he might have dropped off.
No, he's there.
You still there, brother?
I think he might have dropped off.
Yeah, I think he's.
Yeah.
You finished what you were saying.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. So what I was saying is, like, in looking at the, can you hear it? Can you hear? Can you hear me?
Terry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, he's got to come back in.
Finish what you were saying. No, but see, as I said, just like leave everything to like speak, so we can have a dialogue. Because as I said, he can be on a high tempo as well. But my as I said, if things are not beneficial, why don't the pharmaceuticals give out the vaccine for free?
Well, before you do that, why would you pass a law saying I cannot be held accountable if anything bad happens to anybody?
Yeah, but one thing is, even regardless of all that, why don't the pharmaceuticals, where in a pandemic people are dying, why don't they just give it for free?
It would be nice. It would be nice.
Why does the government have to pay for it? Why did you just give it for free? But there, as I said, there is a lot of big agenda and what it needs to be held. But you know what? As I said, like we was only going to post being here for half an hour and discussion. Everything gave us a good dialogue, and I liked his info. Family, I please share, like, and
we can hear you. Everything.
Subscribe. Yeah, but if everything wants to come back in, you can come back in before we close out, and we can finish that dialogue. But I just want to put a note out. Anybody, as once again, anybody that feels that they are into the music business, entertainment business, we have got a new platform on the other side, which is BLACKICETV7 ×2. And if you want to create your own platform on there, please do so. Everything is back. And then anyone that wants to promote their products or got advertisements or you got music videos or whatsoever, this is a platform for the people, by the people, every day. So everything is back in the house.
Apologize, my brother. You can't hear me now?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, so did you hear what I said? I said that why doesn't the pharmaceuticals...
Yellow, you can't hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear us? Can you hear us? Everything is everything. Speak again. It sounds like it's something.
Don't know if you can hear me, but I can't hear nobody.
I can hear you.
We can hear you, brother.
It must be something to do with your
yeah.
But anyway, we're gonna come to an end.
Listen, this is what I'm gonna say to the people. Yeah, I'm gonna be starting up the True Talk again. So again, we can have these panel shows. We can have a little discussion. I'll chop it up. Big up to everything for his comments. Big up to everyone in the chat room that was offering their comments and watching. You know, again, when we do the True Talks, that's a full panel show. So I hope, as we was getting traction before the ban, we can get people to come on, voice their opinions, because I'm interested. And this subject especially needs conversating. So, yeah, I'm definitely going to set that up again. So look out for True Talk, Black Eyes TV. Now we're back on again. I'm definitely going to bring that and bring some interesting people on, some doctors, some different skilled people to offer their opinions as well.
Yes. So yeah, respect to everything is everything. And we're going to be having our True Talk every Tuesday as we normally do. And as well as we're looking for music artists, fashion designers, product makers, and whatsoever, that if you've got a business and you want to promote, advertise, or even to have a panel to discuss and interview people within your industry, we are very open, as we have 2 channels. Once again, Black Eyes TV and Black Eyes TV ×2. So we're trying to move to the next level, because when we can start to grow even more further, we can able to create our network online. So in saying so, if you want to say your last words, Brother Rich.
Listen, people need to start studying the system that we're living in, where we're too much of a consumer society, and that means that most of the time we're taking, we're using, and we're not worried about the process behind what we're using and how we're living. We need to change that. We need to start to look behind the curtain, understand the rules that govern the society that you live in, and then you'll start to understand the injustices that are being done to you on a daily as Black people, as citizens of this country, however you want to slice it, but especially as Black people. You will start to understand who's your enemy and what's really good. But until you do the investigation yourself, until you start to look at the real history of your treatment in these lands, then the conversation really can't get off the ground. You understand? So I encourage my people, please do the research, understand how the system that you live under works, understand the rules that you are under, understand the parameters that they themselves, the government, the white people, whoever you want to call them, the 1%ers, have laid out openly and publicly. So just on that level alone, you're hip to the game, because we really can't start to have real conversations unless we're all on the same page of at least understanding our immediate environment and where we're at and who we're dealing with. Yeah. Big up to everyone again for tuning in. Yeah.
Okay. So this is Terry Riggs, right? And I'm going to give you my last scenario and something to make you go home with. At the end of the day, you have choices. You can take it or you don't have to take it. It's really up to you. And at the end of the day, it's about your thoughts and how you want to do with it, not a system to telling you how to do or how to live. So if you want to choose to do what you want to do, make your choice, but make your choice right. Because at the end of the day, it's about creating and having a legacy while you're on your journey. You know, we get on that train and we come off that train. So what are you going to do while you're on that train? Think about it, understand it, research it, live it. And as I said, Black family first, be Black, spend Black, live Black, you know, buy a house Black, be in the community Black, Black all the way through. And you know what? It's about oneness. Keep that going as much as possible. Peace, love, and harmony. Love you, fans. Love you, family. Love you, people. Let's unite once again as one. Peace.
Now you say something different. Now let's go.
Peace, family. This is Jabari Osaze and the Queen Anika Daniels Osaze, Dr. Queen Anika Daniels Osaze. And I just want to salute the BLACKICETV7 family and let you know that we just got out of an amazing event, the Sonetta TV Awards. And so you can't celebrate Sonetta here in the US without celebrating the equivalent of Sonetta in the UK, BLACKICETV7. So I'm pleased to speak to our brothers and sisters across the waters.
Resin got that sauce in it.
One of these, it'll all be over. It'll all be over. And we won't have to cry.
Be taking the COVID-19 vaccine.
This is the most controversial issue that we have probably faced in our lifetime.
Student Minister Abdul Hakeem Mohammed.
Do you trust this vaccine?
One of these, it'll still are